Myatt was working at IGFA, and he got this partnership with Pilar. IGFA used to work with Pilar, and before we did Florida Canya, and dude, all this rum would just show up at the building, IGFA, and after 5 o'clock, whatever like that, Myatt and I would still be there. Adrian, whoever, dude, we would just punish that blonde rum. We had like so much of that.
The blonde's good.
Oh, we just every day after work sit there listen to Myatt tell stories for 30 minutes or something like that.
Yeah, he's a good storyteller.
Oh, yeah.
That's for sure. So the funny story about the blonde is, I really never had it before because I'm just always a dark rum guy. And we had, you guys know Bombshell, Michelle Dalton. She was on for our Christmas episode like a couple days before Christmas. And she's a really great cook. That's one thing like not a lot of people understand about her. She's like top star chef, right? So she's like, all right, well, I'm going to make this eggnog for, our episode, right? And so she comes in with a whole jug full of it, and she's like, let's mix the blonde in there. And I had the blonde, and it was great. So we had like a blonde for a blonde kind of thing.
Yeah.
And I was like, ever since we had it on that show, I'm like, man, that was so easy. So easy. But we're on the dark today. We're on the Marquesas today, so we're rolling. We're live. So
okay.
I want to just welcome you guys to Connected by Water, presented by Joey Accardi, Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, Ram, and fueled by Papa's Pilar. So it feels good to say that again. We have not podcasted for like a month, which is kind of weird for me because we're like all the time podcasting. But obviously you look around and we are not in our old studio anymore. Right? Yep. We are officially in the new place.
It's very cool.
Yep, on Atlantic Boulevard at the foot of the bridge. And, we don't even have artwork up on the walls yet. That's how like new we are. We're set to open in about a week. I am an artist.
Shouldn't we have? What's going
I know
on?
that should be kind of weird.
First,
it's like I have to put you have to put a sign up here that says like "Pardon our dust."
Yeah.
So we're just still kind of moving in, but I'm completely 1,000,000% honored to have you two in as our first guest in the new store. So I'm here with Jack Vitek from the IGFA, Managing Director, Chief of Staff. Is that
marketing chief of staff.
HBIC. We talked about that.
Something like
right?
that, man.
And absolute legend, my friend. Captain Karl Anderson is joining us today. And truly, I mean, I'm
Pleasure
tickled
to
to
be here,
death that
man.
you're here, man. And this is
Pleasure
just
to
so
be here.
people know this is the first time we're meeting.
Yeah, that's right.
It's a long time coming, but
Long
first time
time
we're
coming.
meeting. Yeah, so.
Yeah, of all the places we've probably been at the same time and
Correct.
never bumped into each other.
Yep, absolutely.
It took
absolutely.
a good Papa's Pilar to make it happen.
So we got the Marquesas going, and that's how I get everyone to come in on the show. Free rum, right? So that's it. You come
Easy sale
for free rum. So,
Easy sale.
I really don't know what we want to get into today because today's unscripted. We are going to talk about the tournament, obviously, because we got the light tackle tournament coming up, and that is in 2 weeks.
Correct.
Well, we record, just so people know, we record the show on a Monday, we air it on a Friday. So it's going to be about just a little bit over a week until that tournament. You can register right up to the end of it, right?
Yeah, you can register up until, the captain's meeting or whatever. So, yeah, absolutely. Well, I mean, you made the artwork for the tournament.
I did.
So, thanks to our mutual friend, Adrian Gray.
Yep.
So, shout out to him. He made the connection there.
Yep.
And great looking piece over there. I don't have it here, but
thank you very
flash
much.
it up
I'll
over there.
flash it up. Yeah.
It's really sharp. So we're looking forward to seeing those shirts. The IGFA Light Tackle Open, man. Yeah. So February, just a quick plug here. February 9th through 11th out of Sailfish Marina, Palm Beach Shores. $3,000 entry fee. But the real cool thing about it is it's 12-pound test maximum.
And that's provided.
Yep, we provide it. So it's basically we work with Andy Monofilament up in West Palm Beach. Chuck is always good to us, hooks us up, and we pre-test the line at IGFA like we would for a world record, just to make sure everything's good to go and it's under that 12-pound mark. You don't have any, bad line or anything like that you're giving out. I think Karl had an issue with that last year, but we got him some additional spools.
It happens. Just had a spool that didn't measure up, and shame on us for not checking it before we put it on. That's on me, totally, 100%. We should have checked it before we put it on. But whenever you're fishing anything like that under 20, it's imperative to check all that stuff.
Yeah.
And it doesn't matter. I mean, even a good spool can have a bad spot in the middle. So that was all on me. anyway, we learned from it, and now we got some more for this year, and I got some backup spools that I already tested, dug into to make sure we're good. But it is a great format. It's a really cool tournament, and
it's such an interesting tournament.
It got back to we kind of threw this thing around, and everybody, they kind of looked at me with hairy eyeballs, but I said we need to make a true light tackle tournament. 20-pound anymore is like rope. Everybody's using it. Charter fishing, they're not using IGFA lines, so basically they're 20 pounds breaking at 28, 26. And I said, let's put some angling skill back in the thing and make the anglers, not crew, not deckhands, not mates, not professional guys who are switching on different boats. Let's let the anglers be anglers and let the crew be crew and put everybody up against each other. You can live bait, you can troll, whatever your pleasure. And that was based on where the fish were, right? Like if the fish are going to be up north in Stewart, you want to be able to troll. If you want to, if they're going to be down here on the live bait bite, well, you want to be able to go down here and live bait where they're fishing, so that you had a shot to catch more fish, and the tournament would be more successful. Yeah. And but I thought the 12-pound format would really put angling back in it, which is like everything that the IGFA stands for is the ethical angling and following the angling rules. Yep. And what a better way to showcase that and give anglers a shot to really get better with tackle, and not use, 20-pound
the lost art of fishing.
Sure.
Yeah.
Make them fish by IGFA rules too. So a lot of these tournaments, you're seeing more and more of like the hook in hand kind of policies that are being allowed, which is one of the big things against IGFA rules. You have to do from the time the fish strikes the bait or the lure, only the angler can be the person that's touching the rod, the reel, or anything like that. So, getting back to that, I feel like is something that it's just it's fishing. It's fishing, and you're not relying on someone else to do it for you. So it's angling skill is what we wanted to get back to, and just a fun tournament. There's no money, there's no big prize. It's just bragging rights,
clout.
Clout, having your name on that awesome Bodo trophy that we have, the Perpetual. So yeah, we're stoked, man. It's our second year. We had 9 boats last year, kind of small, but we're already up around mid-teens, and we got a couple weeks left. So I think we'll be up. We'll get up there. We'll have a good tournament this year. Have some good guys fishing. Karl and his team. We got the Ma Sheila. Scott Levin and Will Tomlinson are coming back. They won it last year. So we got some good teams fishing it, man. It's.
Well, I'm sure if you're fishing in this tournament, you know what you're doing, and you're a reputable team. And that's what it's all about.
Absolutely.
I think, this tournament. And then the other thing I like about it too is like in the grand myriad of all these tournaments, it adds just a different layer to the portfolio of South Florida tournaments, totally. Too, which is what I really like about it the most. Is like it's not just another sailfish tournament.
That's right. That's right. It's like if you're going to open a restaurant, you don't want to compete with McDonald's. You want to compete with the best of the best, right? So, the fact that this is a higher tier, I kind of, I'd put it up against the Masters and I'd put it up against the Gold Cup, both of which I have fished, and they're still fishing 20-pound tests. And if you're going to be a master angler, they ought to be fishing 12,
right?
But they don't, and that's fine. That's their deal, and it's a great tournament. I've always enjoyed fishing it, and always enjoyed having those guys because they are good anglers, most of them.
Maybe we'll get a couple of them to come down and fish this tournament.
There's been a few that have not had good days, let's say. But anyway, I think this does put that other layer into this tournament season, because every weekend it seems we've got a tournament going on somewhere between Fort Pierce and Miami or the Keys.
Geez, this time of year, you got people. It's like real estate. Yeah. People are jockeying for space. Like, we can't have it this weekend because it's that one. We can't have it this weekend.
Absolutely.
It's that one.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? And coincidentally, even speaking, we got locally here speaking, we got the Cove tournament, which is the same weekend as your tournament. So that's another one where it's just like, but I think that one's 2 different crowds, so it's not that big a deal. But you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I think it's this time of year is something every weekend, from here on out, all the way to April.
Piles on. Yeah.
And then all the Keys tournaments kick in, and you got Jamie's meet tournaments kick in, and it just doesn't really stop until September.
No, yeah, and
really,
and if you leave here and go up the coast, and end up in the Northeast, you got the same problem up there.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's tournament. It's just a barrage, and that's okay. But that's what drives people to use their boat too.
Yeah.
And which is something we all need, because we get to sell tackle, we get to sell artwork and T-shirts, and we get to support organizations that help us with sustainability and managing resources, and all that feeds into the deal.
It's an economic driver.
100%.
You know what I mean? And it's
huge.
I think it's people need to recognize that tournament circuit, that tournament scene.
Oh, yeah.
Is an economic driver
Huge.
for South Florida fishing, South Florida tourism.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's a very important element to it.
Absolutely.
I mean, I know we don't we don't really dig too deep into the COVID thing on this show, just because I don't want that to be like a crutch conversation. You know what I mean? To where we just when nothing else to talk about the weather, talk about COVID.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So, but the reality of it is like, with people were concerned, with COVID, with the tournament scene, and some tournaments were postponed, some tournaments were canceled, some tournaments were pushed through, but it was one of the events that you were still able to have during all this. So I think that's kind of cool too.
Yep.
Yeah, people are. I mean, look at the fishing industry in general. I can't remember what it was, but it's like you added some over the past year, it's like some million. I want to say it's either some reason sticking in my head is like 13 million. Could be 1.3. I don't know, but there's been a lot of people that have been introduced to the sport over the past year that started getting involved in recreational fishing.
Yeah.
That's probably not these guys that are out here with big giant boats and doing the tournaments, but from the ground level up, based on the COVID situation, people want to get outside, people want to fish, and fast forward that to the guys that do tournaments. What better way? You can still have a tournament responsibly. You're still in your own kind of bubble, and if you don't want to participate in the social events that go on with the tournament, like all of our stuff's going to be outside for the light tackle open. Sailfish has that great lawn space. We got tents, the whole 9 yards if it's raining. We have space heaters if it's going to be super cold. So, I think you can do things responsibly like that, but the fact that we're seeing, I think the silver lining from our angle from COVID is that all these people are coming into the sport. IGFA membership last year, for an example, we had a first year of like double-digit growth in membership than we've had, since I've been there.
That's
outstanding.
Years.
So it's just
outstanding.
It's just I think more people are getting involved, and it's stuff that we're doing too that I think is helping to reverse that trend. But long story short is more people are fishing because of COVID. So the thing that I think that from people that are in the recreational fishing industry, we obviously want to grow that base, making sure that we can try to retain these people, so that maybe not this year they're not fishing the tournament, but 2 or 3 years from now, they build their skill up and then, hey, you know what, I'm gonna go fish that 12-pound tournament. I could do that.
For sure.
Yeah.
So
yeah, definitely. And that also speaks to, like, I know maybe not in other sectors or this sector or whatever, we don't get into politics on the show, but if you don't believe in like trickle down like economic theories, I mean, that's one of them right there. You know what I mean? Whereas if boat sales are up, then tackle sales are going to be up. Custom fishing apparel is going to be up.
The evidence is
there. You know
there.
what I mean? So we had a great year. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Because of that, we didn't really see the drop off. Because boat sales were up.
Boat sales are up. Tackle sales are up.
Yeah.
Participation is way up. People are out and doing things. Hard to travel internationally.
Yeah.
So what are we going to do? We need something to do, and we need to get out of the house and get our kids involved. So junior angling has become a real big deal. I just see the whole thing as a positive from a giant negative.
Yeah.
Which was really a downer has turned into a good thing for those of us in this industry. It's been a real good deal, and I think it'll carry through because once people get hooked on this fishing thing, it's hard to get out of it. It's
this fishing thing.
So,
we've all crafted a life around it.
Yeah.
With God willing, and thank God that we're able to do that, because
for sure.
It's a heck of a life, I can tell you.
It really is.
I have a theory, and I hope I'm wrong, but I think the used boat market's going to be hot in the next couple of years, because some of these guys that got themselves into those little 20-footers, they probably don't know what they're getting themselves into. And
there's going to be a fair share of that.
But I hope they all turn into more advanced anglers, and those are just like maybe they're graduating to a bigger one. Right?
Yeah.
So hopefully that's the case.
There'll be some of both.
Yeah.
Hopefully more of them stay in and realize what can be done. And that's a confidence builder too, right? You start small and grow up big, and that's the story of this industry. I mean, we all started out with our little boat and kind of moved up. I mean, I had a dinghy when I was 5-6 years old. Rode it around the lagoon. Then I got a 3-horsepower outboard, and I was badass. I can remember trying to troll in my lagoon for bluefish. I was a little kid. I wanted to replicate what my dad was doing,
Yeah.
And I never had a chance in hell of catching anything, but it was cool. I was trolling. Anyway, it's just
you're originally from up north, right?
Beach Haven, New Jersey.
Beach Haven, New
Or
Jersey.
Beach Island, yeah.
Yeah, my whole family's from New Jersey. I ended up marrying a Jersey girl. I'm a Florida native, but I'm the youngest of 6. They're all from New Jersey. But,
Wow,
yeah.
wow.
So I got that connection with you. Now I mean, I don't know, like, I hope everyone in our crowd understands who you are. You know what I mean? But for those that don't, right? I want to backtrack and give a little context here. You've done pretty much just about everything there is to do in this industry. I feel, right? Am I wrong for saying that?
No,
I mean,
I've done a lot.
You have had a storied career, literally a storied career.
I've been in it a long time. I started very young.
So give us some background on that. I mean, you've written for every magazine. You've worked closely with the IGFA for years. Obviously, you're an accomplished captain. Where do you want to start with answering some of that background with you?
A lot of lucky breaks and meeting the right people and having opportunities that bred other opportunities. And I'm a firm believer when you get an opportunity, if it's the right opportunity, you take it and you run with it, and that brings you something else. And it's just kind of you open up a door, you climb through a window, you do whatever, you get you here and there. And but experience is always the winner in anything you do. The more experience you have, the more successful you'll be if you work at it. And I think that happened for me. I was exposed to all the boat builders in New Jersey as a young guy, and started fishing offshore as a mate when I was 13, I guess, on a charter boat. And then went offshore marlin fishing.
13 as a mate.
Yep, $22 a day and all the tips I could stand. And I learned real quick, like the more you interacted with the people, and the more the better the tips were, right?
Right.
And so you learn how to handle a guy who's working in a factory at a blue collar job, and then you learn to deal with executives who are running multi-billion-dollar companies, and treat them both the same. And you learn from them both. You really do. You learn a ton about...
Treat them both the same. That's very important, I think.
Yeah, and, hey, man, you're there to serve them and help them, and it's just like being a waiter or a waitress, I suppose, but probably with a different skill set. And then, the fishing comes, and you end up finding yourself doing different things, and, going offshore and marlin fishing off New Jersey and getting with some guys because you had a little bit of skill, you could do things, and guys that were here in Florida and everything. And then you come down here, and, I got to go to Cat Key and tuna fish on the little 42 Merritt Cat's Meow because I knew those guys, and I got that deal in
it's a good name.
I guess 1982
like
or 83, and classic boat, great crew. Charles Perry was the other mate, and I, and John Sabonis was the captain, and get over there, and we're there for 45 days and fishing every day, looking for giants on the edge. And I met Peter Wright, I met Bart Garnsey, I met Obie O'Brien, and I mean all Danny Bear. I mean.
Yeah, the
best,
great ones.
The best of the best.
The great ones.
Right? Like,
yeah.
You
could probably throw a Skip Smith in there, too,
met Skip. He wasn't at Cat Key, but I met Skip during that time.
All over. That's that
was
whole
St. Thomas,
hooker era was right in those 80s.
Absolutely. Yeah. And down in St. Thomas and everything. And then, and you think about it, and those guys, after like 2 or 3 years of knowing Pete, see him every season, he said, hey, man, you got to come over to the reef, My degree is in television production. I
didn't know that. Oh, shit.
Yeah, I went to Kutztown University in Pennsylvania, and I got my degree in telecommunications, and I was shooting all kinds of stuff, and sound guy, actually. I was a sound guy.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
And, so this is a very elementary setup for you then. So we're trying to tell you what's going on here, and you're like, yeah, buddy, I got you.
Now I got to do some crazy stuff, right? Like, we shot sports recruiting films for some of the big universities. I was all over the place, and then shot NFL game. We did all kinds of stuff, and health and safety training films for OSHA, and just lucky, made it. But I always came back every year. I didn't miss tuna season.
Right.
Like I'd work all year so that I had May and part of June off, so I could go tuna season.
Well, that was like the mecca at that point, right? Like cat. Yeah. That was like for whether you did anything in big game angling, going wherever you are, you kind of came back to.
That's it. It was the best of the best, and I'll never forget. John Sadowski said you could take the best marlin fisherman and put him at Cat Key, and he won't do anything. But if you take the best guy from Cat Key, you can put him anywhere in the world, and he'll catch more marlin than anybody that's there. And that's true. I mean, like they're the best of the best were there.
Interesting.
Peter B's caught more big anythings than anybody. Bluefin tunas, black marlin. He's got that down, and then Bart Garnsey. I mean, there's nobody, and Skip. I mean, those two guys invented light tackle.
Light tackle for sure.
Bait switch fishing. I mean, they're the masters of the game. They are the Picasso and the Renoir, whatever. I mean, those guys are the top of the heap, and still are, because there's only one or two guys doing that now.
It's amazing how much of that also comes back to Pompano.
Oh yeah, Hillsborough Inlet.
It's such an interesting little town.
Hillsborough Inlet.
And this is why. This is another. I mean, I grew up here too. You know what I mean. But this is also why that we're like, man, we just got to be here.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? This is why we moved the store here. Like, we just got to be here, because for no other reason but that.
Yep.
Because this is just the place. I'm sorry. Like I call it the cradle of fishing. Like this is the town that it's just like there's no BS. It's just all about that. And you got some of the most hardcore guys coming out of here,
no
like
doubt.
the Hunt family. You know what I mean? Stan and Casey and all those guys are like a perfect example of that. And the Maddock family.
Yep.
Skip Dana, Art Sapp. You get that next generation of heavy hitters that follow in the footsteps of those guys that you just mentioned.
Super quality
all
guys.
come from here.
Yeah, absolutely, and really talented fishermen, like unbelievably talented fishermen, and work at it hard.
Yep.
And there's a common thread in all that.
Yeah,
it's hard work.
Hard work.
And putting your time in and
culture, just the culture of the town. The culture. It's almost like you look at Timmy Maddox's son.
Yeah.
Just broke the state record last week. For that swordfish.
Yeah.
And that's a perfect example of what we're talking about right now.
Yep.
I mean, it's just like, that's a kid. And Hunter Irvine, too, the one that he was fishing. Those are two kids that grew up knowing nothing else.
Right.
This is it. This is just life
that was
for them.
That was their
like
weekends.
Eating lunch for them.
That was their weekends.
You know what I mean?
That was their
That's
nights. That's what we did with our dads.
Yeah.
Right. And that's,
That's it. You know what I mean? And it's just,
and
I don't mean to talk over you on all that stuff, but
they're going to take it off, and they'll carry it. And you're right, like Hillsborough Inlet's an interesting place. It was the spot, and then of course having Merritt's here didn't hurt.
Correct.
Right, like Rybovich, started the whole deal, and then in the 70s and 80s, the Rybovich yard went through a lot of changes, and was bought out, and they stopped building boats of any sort of reputation, and then, Roy had these 37s and 43s and, this great stuff going on. And then all of a sudden the big boats, right, to travel. Don Tyson gets a 62-footer and Rick DeFeo takes it all the way to Chile. What, on your own home, and had success, right? They caught swords and everything. And Roy was building these boats. Everything on them's oversized, this and that and the other. And, and like I said, I came here in, I guess, 1982, 3. It was my first time to come to the yard and go tuna fishing, and then I've been coming back ever since. And, my career's been blessed with the best equipment that money can buy. When I came back, started to run boats, I had a 37 Rybovich, the Briar Patch, then we had the 45 Rybovich, then we got a 58 Merritt, and then we built a 72. And all meant to go and do and travel, and we shipped the 58 to Madeira in 2006. I sent it over there, and we had a great season, had a huge time, and caught a lot of big fish, and went up all through the Mediterranean, and man, that's
Madeira.
That's at the top.
Yeah, land of giants there.
Yeah,
right?
Beautiful place, beautiful people, great fishing. When the fishing's good, good food.
Good food too.
Good food. So we went back 10 years later. We did it in 16 with the Serenita, the 63-footer run. It's Charles Duncan's boat, who's the chairman of IGFA, and I did a deal with him. I'll lend-lease the boat, and get some partners together, and we'll go over and fish the thing again. So we put it together. We shipped it to the Canaries, and actually Barkey had the boat in the Canaries, and then I came over and did the Madeira stint, and then we went and fished mainland Portugal again, and because I had done that in 06. And funny story, when we got to Portugal, Bark and I got our boats. He got his boat in Genoa, and I got off in Gibraltar in 06. And Barkey's coming around the point when I'm on the ship offloading. So we spent a week in Gibraltar because it was blowing so hard we couldn't leave, getting the boats ready and everything. Then we went to this place, the Algarve. Nobody had ever heard of it. That was going to be our launching to take off to go to Madeira. And we're working on the boats and everything. Again, wind blows. It's May, right? And the wind's just honking. So we were stuck there in this place called Villamora for, like 7 days. So we had a couple of days where, we work half day. All right, let's go walk around and get a lay of the land, and we'll rent a car and drive. We went to Lagos, started out to the corner and checked that, and we're doing a little homework, and we're in this restaurant, and there's this giant white marlin. Like, I mean, it's a 100-pounder, and it's a skin mount and everything, and I'm like,
Skin mount.
Bart, that's what we're going. There's something going on here.
Right.
So we start talking to some local guys and met an IGFA guy, and he became buddies, and Augusto, and I said, started asking him, and he says, "Oh, come with me." So he takes me to this little pub, and it has a guy there, and he's opening up his photo album, and he's showing us pictures of these fish that he hasn't caught, but he's hooking them.
Right.
And they're jumping and everything, and they're like nice fish, right? And he goes, we haven't caught one yet. We keep stripping us, and we breaking them off, and this and that. And I'm going, man,
we'll teach you how to bring them.
Barky's like, on the way home, you've got to come back here and fish.
Yeah.
And I'm like, yeah. So I go to, we get to Madeira. We have a really nice season. We catch really nice quality fish, and I had a great time. Anyway, I leave, and I'm going back, and I'm going to the Algarve, and we're gonna fish. So I get to the Algarve. Of course, I don't have any charters, but I got this guy Augusto, and I said, Augusto, I'll cut you a deal. You get your guys from your fishing club. You just pay the fuel, and we'll take you fishing. It's all. Just cover my fuel.
Yeah.
And sure. So we go out, and I run off to this place, the Picos, which is like a canyon, very similar to what I grew up fishing in New Jersey, right? And I'm looking at it. It's this canyon ends, and then there's these 3 mountains, the Picos. And start my first tack. And I mean, we're not even 15 minutes in, and rigger comes down, and I'm like, oh shit, some weed, whatever.
Right.
Just not expecting anything, and I'm looking into the sun, and and next thing, man, my mate yells up, we're tight, man, we're tight. I'm, so I put the boat in a turn, and there he is jumping. I'm like, holy smokes, we're on, Anyway, get him up there. We put a sat tag in him. We called him 800, conservative. And we're all jacked up. I'm like, all right, that's a hell of a day.
Good start. Yeah.
Meanwhile, the guy that was the angler was this guy from England, and he had been fishing there for 30 years to try and catch a blue marlin. That was his first one.
No way.
Come on.
I swear.
That's awesome.
He had a boat. He was in construction, right? And he was a builder. Anyway, he had his boat there, and he'd been trying for 30 years to catch a marlin in there, and hadn't done it. So anyway, we catch this guy's fish, and his wife was with us, and they're happy as can be. And turn around and make a couple more tacks. About 40 minutes later, got another one. And wind him up there, holy moly, it's another nice one. About 800, right? So we popped the tag in that one. And I'm going, well, this isn't all bad. This will work.
Wow.
And, so we finished out the day. And I guess, I think we had a white marlin bite too. I think pretty sure we did. And anyway, we go in, and the guy Augusto comes, and, he's talking. He goes, two fish, like everybody's just like, oh my, guys came from Portimao to like, you caught two,
Really?
And from what I gathered, that was the first time that had been done off mainland Europe, not off an island, but off mainland Europe.
Right.
And, it was a pretty big deal to those guys. They were all jacked up, and we were just like, man, God, let's go tomorrow.
For sure.
Let's go.
Yeah, we're not done.
Yeah, anyway, of course, it was like the middle of the week, and these guys had to work, and I couldn't get them going. And I said, all right, well, I'll hang out here for like 3 more days. And, anyway, then the weather comes, so we couldn't fish. So as soon as the weather broke, I had to leave and go to Gibraltar to start my way to go meet the boss, who was flying in to meet us at Nice and Antibes, so we could go do Sardinia, Corsica, and Italy and all that stuff, cruising deal. But that's how it got going.
That's great.
So
that's outstanding. Jack, thank you so much for bringing him in here.
Dude, no, it's got to be so crazy.
That's phenomenal stuff.
What I'm thinking is like, how cool it must be to like find a place like that.
Yeah,
you guys have been like stoked. You've been like, oh my god, what? Like it's like a needle in a.
It's a unique point in time era because
totally.
This is before internet and like global communications
Absolutely.
and everything like that. So it was true adventure, true discovery.
Absolutely, there was no internet. People didn't know what was going on.
Yeah.
I mean, we didn't. I didn't even have a sat phone on that boat. I didn't have any of that stuff.
You want to make you wonder though, is like where else is there a spot like that? Now, there's got to be still some spots out there. I know everything's pretty much
right out front.
globalized.
Yeah.
But like some places over there in like the South Pacific, I would think.
Yeah.
That very hard to get to. People know about Ascension, some of those hard places to get to, but I mean, some place that maybe is still yet to be discovered. I think there's got to be some stuff out there still. I think that haven't, had the full breadth of sport fishing hit them yet.
Pressure.
Well, if anyone's going to know, it's like you. because for the big ones, right? Because you guys are, when I say you, I mean IGFA, like because you guys are registering all over the world, right? And so do you find like every now and then you're getting like a location for a world record that you're like, wow, I didn't even know that was a fishery?
Yeah, for sure. So, I mean, one thing that we've seen in the past couple of years, which is, I mean, there's probably a variety of examples, but one thing for the offshore world, I think, is typically, if you look at the record books for short-billed spearfish, which is typically they're only, if you want to go target short-billed spearfish, you go to Hawaii.
Yeah,
you go to Kona.
yeah.
And that's your spot where you can catch them, I guess, fairly regularly. We've been seeing some giant specimens, which makes sense because it's at the edge of their range, coming out of New Zealand. People catching big short-billed spearfish out of New Zealand and I think Australia too. So, and they're just 80, not 80, some of the 80-pound fish, which is a big short-billed spearfish. I think for a typical fish would probably be in the, I've never caught one, probably in like the 20, 30-pound range, I think, something like that.
40-ish,
yeah, something like that. So they're getting some big specimens down in New Zealand, which is cool. But the cool thing is like how you see new fisheries develop. Like, and this isn't like an offshore thing, but I can just think off the top of my head from records wise. Milkfish. You guys know about milkfish? It's like a bonefish on steroids. They have giant tails.
Yeah.
Silverfish, they're Indo-Pacific. You don't get them in the Atlantic, but they're inshore, like kind of flats fishery. And these fish get up to like 40 pounds. And they're
a 40-pound boat.
Right? They're crazy, giant eyes. So they're super spooky. Same with like, well, I didn't know this until you learn a lot of things at IGFA. Several different species of permit around the world. Probably the most popular that's coming up is called the Indo-Pacific permit, or I think it's called the snub-nosed pompano is the actual name.
Really?
What we call it as, but people call it the Indo-Pacific permit. Seychelles, Exmouth in Australia, which is a new kind of budding fishery, which looks like an awesome place to go to. But yeah, so you got all these two different species of fish, and you start looking at other things too. I mean, in Papua New Guinea, there's a species of snapper. It's a freshwater snapper called Papuan black snapper. And these things are just nasty. They get up to like 50, 60 pounds.
Really? They're
just
awesome
like
fish.
Kubera
I want to
style,
go. They're on my bucket list.
Yeah, they're in like these tight creeks with all this debris and sticks in there and everything, and just gangsters, man. Just like this,
wow.
You troll for them and they just crush. And you guys are fishing like 130-pound braid for these things, which is probably overkill, but they just breaking rods and everything like that. So I mean, just crazy to see like fisheries kind of come up as people start to learn about them.
Yeah.
Look at snakehead, man.
Yeah.
In Asia, snakehead is like largemouth bass. Here in the States, largemouth bass, everyone, that's like the most popular fish, right? Like the more anglers fish for largemouth bass or whatever than anything else.
Yeah.
In Asia, like like Malaysia and places like that, these guys are diehard snakehead fishery, and we think them as they're like kind of an invasive species, which they are here.
Yeah, they are.
Yeah, but they get just these giant. I think they get up to like 25, 30 pounds of giant snakeheads. Not the same species that we have here.
Different.
But we got like how many? There's like probably 20 different species of snakehead plus out there.
Right.
So. I don't know.
It's even like bass, like largemouth bass. Like there's different strands of that as you get more south towards from Georgia towards Florida and everything. There's different strands. Even like down below the lake here, Lake Okeechobee, you got completely different type of largemouth bass.
Most of the snakeheads are the aquarium genus, right?
Oh.
Yeah,
that's it.
Right, exactly.
Well, look at all the records.
The lionfish and the
all your records for largemouth bass, California, because they took a Florida strain and they put it out there in California in these deep water lakes, and they just flourish.
Yeah.
I mean,
wow.
Trout in these lakes, and these bass are just smoking trout. We're getting huge. And so I mean, that's why I don't know. It's cool, man. You get to see these different. That's one of the many cool things about working at IGFA is, like I'd say, just seeing kind of like new fisheries develop where they've been there, and people in the local area know about it, but then the rest of the angling world, Western, whatever you want to call it, finds out about it. Like, oh, that's a cool fish. I want to go fish for that.
You wonder too, like you're talking about the new fisheries, like where that would be in the world, and you have to equate that a little bit to the culture, the infrastructure of places to get to. Now, I know you guys mothership all over the place with these boats, but some places.
You guys,
not him.
you guys.
I did look at him when I said that. Not me either.
Not yet. I'm working on it.
Yeah, you let me know what you do. I'll jump in on that.
It is the way to go.
But really, that's few and far between because so much of it is dependent on you got to have the right boat, the right vessel, the right crew. Just like you're saying, you went to this guy went there for 30 years, didn't catch a fish, but when you went with the right people, he caught 2 in one day.
Yeah, right.
Right?
Right.
So if you look at places like the Philippines or even just like Southeast Asia, Southwest Asia, right? And India, Bay of Bengal, you know what I mean? There's probably like monster fish there, but they're probably not being caught because most of the people that are going out off India are just in like, for all lack of a better term, wicker boats. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, there's some.
Or are they really? There's like sport fishing isn't really looked upon the same in that part of the world as it is here.
Well, you got to look at perspective on things for people like that, like India. I think we have the luxury here of
completely
having
different poverty scale.
Yeah, exactly. So I mean. And that's the thing too. It's not to dovetail into conservation, but you see a lot of the times, you think of large scale commercial fishing where you have these giant fleets that go out there, and that's obviously a big concern. But then what a lot of people don't understand is the like artisanal fleets, artisanal fishing, and like local fishermen, and different countries.
That's a better term than wicker boats.
Well, no, I mean it's
the one I use, but that's good though.
It's not the Philippines. I mean, this is in the Caribbean. This is in Costa Rica, and this is in Central America, right in our backyard. Where these guys are going out, and a lot of times it's unregulated. You don't know how many fish are being caught, and so it's obviously a concern, right? And you go and you're like, we have to learn more about this. We have to, stop this artisanal fishing. But then you think about it, you take a step back, and like this guy's trying to feed his family.
Yeah.
So how's your argument on that? Well, no, don't kill that fish because if you release it, then think about all this stuff you could do. You could start a whole operation and yada yada. You could charter boats and do a whole thing, which makes perfect sense. And in a perfect world, that's what you want to have happen. But I put myself in that guy's shoes. Like if I'm trying to feed my family,
it's like a grandfather clause situation there. It's like really has nothing to do with the rest of the world.
I'm not going to be thinking about how I could grow a business,
right?
By releasing this tuna or this sailfish or whatever that I catch. I'm bringing that thing in the boat. I'm gonna, I got to feed my family or pay. Someone's going to buy this to allow me to get money to feed my family. So that's a big thing. And I feel like, that a lot of people don't understand or realize, but rather than being, I can take a different approach by being so quick to I don't want to say judge, but be like, condemn it. It's like, you got to find a way to educate these people a little bit more. Eventually, this is long, big scale kind of things, but dude, food security. I mean, you got to feed yourself.
Yeah, it's like this Venn diagram situation where it's like we think we know everything, but every now and then some different situation is going to overlap that.
It's not that easy.
Yeah,
to convince someone that, to stop doing something that provides for your family for the greater good. It's
like
tough.
we're all about conservation here. I'm sure everyone at this table is. You know what I mean? We believe in that sustainability, responsible management, everything like that. And then sometimes you see that picture on Facebook or something of that guy like with the sailfish over his shoulder riding a bike. You know what I mean? And you're like, I look at that and I go, "You're damn right. That dude's probably like scored something big for his family, or at least taking that home, and they're feasting tonight."
Yeah,
absolutely.
And that's awesome. Yeah, for sure. I mean, some people might think it's strange, right, John? Don't you think that some people might think
strange.
Might be strange. You know what else is strange?
What's that?
There's strange questions that people have emailed into us to ask you guys today. Yeah.
Well, hold on, before we do that, why don't you?
Let's fill. This is a perfect time to fill up because
give me a refresher.
This is the Papa's Pilar strange questions.
Oh God!
Right, so it is
I hope it's not from Maya.
It is the
Is it
Papa.
Maya?
Pilar.
Is it?
No. We'll see. We'll see what we got here. This is Svengali, like Johnny Carson, right?
Carson.
I have the
Here we go.
questions in right
Here we
here.
go.
So let's top up here. You got the
And
you
a
guys want
shout
the
out.
Marquesas here. You want to re-pour that, right?
Sure.
Yep.
A big shout out to I'll do this plug to Mike Myatt.
Yeah, Mike Myatt.
Good friend. I'll think of everyone here. Rum purveyor.
Rum purveyor.
Right.
From
we got
Papa's
blonde.
Pilar.
That was only a little bit here.
Never
So I got blonde and I got. You want to do a hybrid mix here?
Oh yeah, mix
right?
it up.
You want
sure.
you more dark? You want the blonde here?
Blonde's already open, man. That's
blonde's
fine.
already open, right.
Don't have to be too picky with it.
Okay, I'm with you.
They make this every day.
They make it
You
every
can have
day.
as much as you want.
There you go.
That's the beautiful thing about Papa's Pilar.
Sending.
Being an ambassador, it's quite a pleasure to know that they make this every day.
Never a
'Cause when I
spectator.
get home at the end of the day, that's exactly right.
Right.
I'm never a
So I'm going to do a
spectator.
little mix there. So the blonde and the dark.
Excellent.
I'm out too.
So
When you guys pass that
I forgot
blonde
about
down here.
John over there.
Jeez.
I'm
John,
hiding.
You want more ice, John? Are you good?
Technical
yeah,
support needs a little lubrication.
Technical support. So this is our halftime here in the show.
Yeah, you give me a scoop of ice.
Yeah. All right.
You can use one of those cups.
Yeah, I'll give you.
You want us to put it in the
I'll
microwave
give you
for you? Warm it up.
Non-COVID cup. Here you go.
Thank
You
you.
got it. You're good. All right. Anyone else need
While
more
you're in
ice?
there, I'll have a little ice.
Yeah, here.
While we're in there.
All right. So, for those of you listening to the audio portion of this and not watching on YouTube, we're taking a little refill break here. So all right. So I got the strange questions here, and what this is this is a segment that we do every show, and I will email some people that you guys may or may not know. And I'll ask them, say, hey, you want to ask these guests a question? And, and they will. So
I'm nervous.
we got about, let me see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 inquiries here for today's show, and we are going to have a little fun.
All right.
Some
Sounds
of
good.
them may
That's
be
good. I like
strange,
this.
some of them may be strange, some of them may be simple, but they might be good answers, right? So our first question comes from Rufus Wakeman. Right, which Rufus is a steward of the sport and a fine gentleman at that.
Yep.
And he's a very good friend of the studio. So he's got a question for each of you. First goes to Jack. What's the strangest world record that you've ever certified?
Strangest world record I've ever certified.
Like, we've talked about some strange fish here today, so I don't know if any of those fall into that category. What caught you off guard, maybe.
He certified one that wasn't really a record. That would be pretty strange.
Yeah. It's probably more about it's probably more about the ones you reject than you certify. Because we get species.
That's probably a better answer. You're right.
You get species of fish, all sorts of different stuff, man. So for an IGFA world record, any species can qualify for an all tackle.
Like a pleca? On a gold cook?
Anything for an all tackle record, any fish applies. Obviously, your more popular game fish species like your tuna.
Is it really any fish applies? Like even those aquarium fish?
Any fish applies as long as it's over 1 pound.
Okay.
As long as it weighs over 1 pound and it's in the top 50% of that fish's maximum weight. So say it's some weird fish that's never been caught before or never, no one's ever submitted for a record. We'll go and we'll look up online and say, okay, it's this fish is X, Y, and Z. The guys that we have in the ichthyologists at IGFA, our conservation department, those guys will spec out the fish, be like, yep, that's what it is.
The guys that Adrian's bugging all the time, like
Adrian, this would be like Jason or Bruce, the guys in our conservation department, or Zach. These guys that have the background in fisheries identification, stuff like that, and ichthyology.
Like a woolly-eyed shagtail eel.
Dude, all that weird crap. Dude, we get so much weird stuff that people catch and they submit. No joke. No joke. Eels, all sorts of stuff, man. Japan, dude. Japanese are big on submitting weird fish, right? So we get some strange stuff out of Japan. But anyways, as long as
it has to be caught in open water, though, too. It can't be caught out of a tank.
Oh, yeah, we can get no tanks. Anyways, there's so many different things that came into my head right there with examples. But anyways, so we spec out this fish. Okay, it's fish X, Y, and Z. Its max weight we see on, we look it up online. Max reported weight is 10 pounds. So that fish has to weigh at least 5 pounds, half of the maximum weight for it to qualify, or registered length. So a lot of the times, these fish have like zero data on them. This is the cool thing about all tackle records, because a lot of people out there are thinking like, why do you want to keep fish, records for all that kind of weird stuff? Which I get it. There's a lot of people out there that like targeting these different species. But at the same time, we are able to give, a lot of times if you look up online what the max weight of a fish is, like through FishBase or other places, it's IGFA that provides that data, because it's not, that's the reason where it came from. So it's kind of cool from that standpoint. But what I'm getting back to is we get a lot of weird records in for fish that, you would not think that would come into IGFA, but we do. But that's not the surprising part. Probably the biggest surprise, or the whatever the question was, like the weirdest fish or whatever we rejected.
Yeah, strangest world record.
The strangest world record situation we ever did is, without a doubt, the all tackle, or was going to be the all tackle landlocked striped bass that led IGFA down a 4-year litigation or lawsuit, basically.
Really?
So we got this record application, and a guy from Arkansas called up. This was when I was working at the records office. When I started IGFA, I started as the records coordinator. So I was the guy that accepted all that stuff and dealt with the people. So this guy.
So you're the guy that screwed it up?
I screwed it up. I did, man. I learned a lot from this. So anyways, this guy came in, and he was like, he was the nicest guy on the phone. He's like, man, I caught this record. He's from Arkansas. He's like, I caught this huge landlocked striped bass. Sent me the pictures, the email, everything like that. And that's big enough to qualify. I walked him through the process. Like, but I got this question. I have this. I caught it on this homemade lure that I made, and so he sent me pictures of it. And you guys familiar with the Alabama rig? You know the Alabama rig? It's like basically a spreader, like a small spreader bar, like a small dredge that
Yeah.
you can cast.
Yep.
And they'll have a variety of different hooks on it. Some will, have like 3 hooks, hook baits, but you have like, 8 or 12 different little things,
Right.
like teasers, whatever you want to call them. So anyways, he caught it on one.
Basically a spread.
It's a dredge.
Yeah.
It's a dredge with hooks.
hooks.
Yeah, but you can cast. I'm like, dude, I don't know, man. I don't think that's legal. IGFA rules. But here's the thing: what people don't understand is that IGFA rules, right? We have all these different rules for what you can do, but like we don't. There's no possible way you could have a rule for every situation that applies, right? Or every piece of tackle that applies. There's a lot that is left with interpretation, which is why we have a board of directors, why we have a rules committee that we can push these things through. So the guy was like, hey, I want to submit this record.
That's why you guys are the best, though.
He's like, I want this record. I think I caught it. I'm like, I don't know about that lure. He's like, well, I'm driving down. I'm like, okay. 2 days later, the guy shows up at IGFA, drove from Arkansas, comes down, drops off this application, brings the lure. I mean, hell, we're out there in the pond at IGFA casting this thing. We caught a bass on it, the same thing. Like, wow, okay, man. Well, I'll tell you what, we'll go through the process, right? I'm not, can't guarantee you with this lure. We try to tell people, like, if there's a blatant issue with a record beforehand, like, just don't bother spending the $50 to submit it. It's not going to go through, right? There's an issue. So I said, listen, Rodney, we'll do this for you. We'll process this and we'll go through the process. But, I'm not going to charge you right now. This is where I screwed up. I should have charged him. Ever since then, you have to go through the whole process. So I said, we're not going to charge you, man. Like, I don't want to charge you this money. You drove all the way down here, yada, yada. At this point, it was just like a regular record application. We had no idea there was something iffy behind it. So we go through the process. We send the information to our rules committee and everything like that. I can't remember how exactly it goes, but, we ended up saying, no, it's not going to be rejected. Part of IGFA rules say if you're going to reject a record because of the, whatever reason, the angler has a right to appeal it, right? And if they appeal that, then it goes to the executive committee. So this is the chairman, vice chairman, treasurer, like just 5 guys at the top of IGFA as far as our board that make the final end-all decision. So we sent it to them, and they said they ratified what we said. No, rejected. Then comes out this guy, and we had no idea about this. Mustad Hooks, which is, reputable company, had started this competition, Mustad Hook a Million competition, which we didn't know anything about. And it was like 5 species. If you caught all tackle, the biggest one ever, all tackle IGFA world record for like 5 saltwater species and 5 freshwater species. Iconic fish. Like, no way someone's going to break this record. They would pay you $1 million. So this guy had applied or put like 2 or 3 of these Mustad hooks on the lure that he used. So this guy was thinking he's getting $1 million check. We had no idea about this contest. Mustad had never contacted IGFA. It wasn't until we rejected his record and came through that he came back and, like, listen, this guy was from modest means, like, completely understand his kind of side of this thing. But he was like,
So he's got a lot riding on this.
which we had no idea about, right? And so he's like, well,
No wonder he drove down.
that thing cost me $1 million, blah, 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 blah. You guys are cheating me out of it. You guys are, IGFA has this like stereotype as being like this rich boys club and, all that kind of stuff, which is, not the case, And he's like,
It's more like a fishing nerds club, right?
Yeah, it's like we have people from all around the world that are members, And
Yeah.
like from people that fish
Just
for,
enthusiasts.
we
man.
have people that fish
care.
for eels in
Right,
Japan to people
right.
that fish for blue marlin and do, so we have everything. And so anyways, the guy, this whole thing came out and we spent hundreds of thousands of dollars over the course of 4 years. I sat in a room with our chairman, Charles Duncan, and IGFA president at that time, Rob Kramer, for probably 12 hours. When we eventually, 4 years down the road, hindsight 2020, we should have wisened up from the beginning and said, Mustad, we're bringing you in this.
Right.
Because the guy filed suit against us because we rejected his record. So I had to sit through depositions. I had to do this whole 9 yards. Finally, at the end of the day, I was like, you know what? Why don't we, let's bring Mustad in on this. This is not, they put this whole thing on. So we contacted Mustad. We're completely cordial about it. We're like, guys, listen, you put this contest on. We didn't know anything about it. Now we're a nonprofit. We do a lot of good work. We're $300K in the hole over the past couple of years from legal
Wow.
fees.
So basically, Mustad required
it had to
comply
be an
with
IGFA record.
rules.
It said it had to be approved IGFA all tackle record, and they didn't come to us beforehand. And this is listen, I don't have any beef with Mustad, But,
No, of course not.
you know, and it was just like, they came to us. So that was, without a doubt, I mean, it was a 4-year process. We finally ended it in like a mediation with Mustad, IGFA, and this gentleman in the same room. And what we were painted as, because like I said, this guy was, was from, I think he was a vet, really nice guy. Like, talk with him. He's super nice guy.
He just wants his.
And he was like,
all.
and what
in his mind, he caught that fish.
Yeah, what his lawyers painted it at was, David versus Goliath. You have this, this guy, this regular guy caught this exceptional fish, and then this pinky high organization IGFA, which we're not, is just telling him no, which is complete BS. That's a that's not how it went down.
Yeah.
So, anyways, it just kind of opened your eyes to a couple of things. It's like one thing when you sign.
So no world record.
No world record.
Yeah.
We didn't know. We said
I agree with that though.
No.
With those rigs, I mean,
So
you're not doing hook to line.
It's gang hooks.
You're basically got a rod full of metal between you and the hook.
We don't, and it's I mean, we don't require. We had a rule that says, if you're going to use spreader bar arrangements, the hooked bait or the hook lure has to detach from it, right?
Right.
And you have to fight the fish without any kind of devices and everything. And listen, this is a rule that was interpreted by our board and our committee. But I will note that since then, several other, I think, Bassmasters, you can't use these lures in Bassmasters and these tournaments. State records and agencies won't validate it if you catch it on one of these Alabama rigs. So we weren't the only ones.
Right.
Tournaments prevented them from happening or from being used.
Nor is it your responsibility. That Mustad
right.
created the contest, making you somewhat responsible for being the decider in the event.
So that was, without a doubt, it was a 4-year-old ordeal. I learned a lot from it. But at the end of the day, we sat in a room with a mediator, some high-profile lawyer from Mustad, this gentleman, and it was actually cool. Our attorney, our representative party, who did a great job for us, was Mark Sosin's son, which was kind of cool. So, anyways, that was it, man. I mean, we've seen a bunch of weird stuff come in, approve some great records and stuff like that. But if there's one record that sits in my head as far as one that's the most memorable, it's definitely that one because it was such a headache.
See why?
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm glad you guys stood your ground, though.
No.
And
Dude,
that speaks. You could have folded.
True.
Are you kidding me?
You know what I mean? I know, but you're
that's
the
what we
IGFA. You're the IGFA. So then
And
that speaks volumes to the organization.
It would have shook everything else down from there forward. So.
Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt, but I got a text from Skip Smith, and he says hello to both of you guys. So, so I told him you guys were coming on the show today, but he got his question in a little late.
All right.
So and obviously we're on question 1A of 5.
No, I'll be quicker. I'm sorry, man. I went on there.
No, that
for a
was
while.
good. That was
good.
I loved hearing that.
You read
that
the
was
encyclopedia lately?
This is why we're here, Jack.
Yeah.
We're here to talk
I'll
about all this
speed it
stuff.
up,
like,
man.
right?
I'll speed it up.
Right? All right, so let's see. Yeah. All right. Anyway, Skip didn't give me much, but he said, "Oh, sorry, I'm late." Blah blah blah. He wanted to say hi to both of you guys. So anyway, Skip Smith says hello. Hello, Skip.
Yeah. Hello, Skip.
Skippy.
So and then for you, Rufus asks, "What's the strangest circumstance you've encountered while catching bluefin tuna? Big bluefin tunas," he says, or is that pretty much a straight up operation for you?
Yeah, pretty much straight up deal. Probably fishing up in Canada and big bunch of bluefins around, and then the net boats come and you're fishing off the net boats, and it's I don't know.
Yeah.
Cat Key, straightforward fishing.
Straightforward.
No maple syrup, no hockey pucks coming up with the big bluefin tuna.
Probably catching 3 in one day at Cat Key. That was a big day. That was a real good one.
Because you guys you're sight fishing them, right? Or not sight fishing, but you see them come up on the sandbank, and you have to position the boat perfectly.
They're not
right?
always in the sand.
Oh.
They're not always in the sand, but they're in the alley, or sometimes they are in the sand. But anyway, I remember the day we caught 3 in one day real well. That was a memorable day because it had been several years of bad fishing, and we got the weather finally. That fishery is totally dependent on weather, condition. No clouds, current's got to be going, water's got to be clean. I mean, there's any number of conditions that have to come together for that fishery to be viable. Weather's being the big one, and talked to Alan Merritt for a long time, many times about how the weather patterns were so different now from in the heyday when they were catching fish. But I did get to see some of that, and I'm always glad that I did.
Yeah, nice. Well, John and I are dying. We were supposed to go bluefin tuna fishing with Andy Moyes up there this year. But Andy will be here this afternoon for this afternoon session with Tiny Walcott.
Awesome.
By the way, but he's going to tell the rapscallion story.
Andy's got it. Andy's got it dialed in Canada. I was up there
Yeah.
for 5 years doing the same thing.
Yeah, but again, COVID couldn't go. So this year,
Where's Andy up? Where is he based out of? In
Antigonish.
PEI or Antigonish?
Antigonish.
Yeah.
That place
Great
is
fishery,
awesome.
wonderful fishery, great spot. It's the fishing is like, I grew up listening to the stories of Newfoundland. When my dad fished Newfoundland in 1969, and looking at those pictures on the wall as a kid every day going downstairs, and you see that picture of the fishing, and you kind of like, whoa, man, I got to do that. And then getting to do it was really pretty cool. Yeah. But it's a great fishery, and Andy's
I'm dying to get there. I've never been. So.
Let us know, man. I mean, you have plenty of connections with Andy and everything, but the thing that amazes me about the bluefin stuff that you guys did in Cat versus in Nova Scotia, I've run up there. Luckily enough, I've been able to go up there and fish that and caught some fish up there, some giant fish with Adrian actually. We went up there. But you're in 60 feet of water, 80 feet of water.
Yeah.
I mean, when you guys get off the bank there in Cat, like you're
way deep.
Yeah.
Andy just shows me these videos of him just hand feeding them. Big Volkswagens just boom, boom.
I would go up there and not even fish. The place up there is awesome.
Yeah.
Good food, good people.
I was going to bring the whole family with me.
Yeah, that's
it's worth
great.
it.
Yeah, I was going to bring the wife and the kids and everything.
Beautiful
make it a
area.
vacation.
Yeah, beautiful area.
Yeah. That'd be cool. All right. Well, thank you very much, Sir Rufus. I like calling him Sir Rufus. That's how I consider him. So
Absolutely.
Rufus, come fish the light tackle open, man.
Yeah.
Come on.
Hey.
Yeah.
You talked about.
I'm going to get on him about that.
All right, good.
He should be fishing that.
Yeah.
One. That's definitely true. All right. Our next question comes from Sir Adrian Gray. Right. And
The man.
So these are all for Jack, and
great.
it's kind of a loaded potato here for you. Yeah. So
Let me go to the bathroom.
See you next week.
So I got a sandwich, man.
I'll speed it up, man. Be quick. I promise.
So
Give me a
this
rum or
is-
two. I
I'm
start
gonna-
talking.
I'm going to ask, well, two of them are a question and one is a suggestion. So Adrian asks, ask Jack if he believes in Sasquatch, if he's ever drank Bailey's from his shoe.
Oh, yeah.
And he says, but whatever you do, do not ask him about global warming. So this is all from Adrian Gray. So,
Sasquatch, I wish. I wish. I wish.
Are you a Sasquatch guy? Like
I wish it
believe in
exists.
aliens kind of thing?
I don't believe. Listen, I believe there's life outside of our Earth here. I mean, I'm not saying they're green-headed aliens, but I think there's, I think they've already determined that, right? That there's some sort of life
Like
out
carbon and bacteria,
stuff
and
like
all
that. Maybe
yeah.
microbial
Microbes,
stuff.
yeah.
Whatever. I'm probably using the wrong
Do you have
words
mold
there.
in your house?
I believe in that, but I don't believe in like aliens and stuff. Sasquatch, nah. I wish, man. I think we would have found him by now.
Yeah.
Probably. Yeah.
With all these people out there looking for him,
Heat
makes me feel better when I'm going hunting in the mornings.
Yeah.
A few times I do, knowing that there's not a Sasquatch out there. What was the other one? Bailey's from a shoe. No, that's an old Greg reference. And global warming is just that was a reference from
I was told not to
a
ask you
Papa's
that,
Pilar fueled
all right.
conversation that Adrian, Jason, and someone else had.
A rant, perhaps?
Yeah. But
right.
yeah, global warming, serious thing. That's what I say.
Serious thing?
It's a thing,
It's a thing?
It's a thing for another podcast.
Okay. All right. Gotcha. All right. Thank you very much, Sir Adrian.
Yeah. Thank you, Adrian.
Our next question comes from a fellow writer and, brown trout aficionado. Right. We call this guy. I got to tell you about that one. So this next question comes from a guy who once had a job in Crested Butte, Colorado, like as a janitor working at a ski lift, right? And then they had microphones, and sometimes like the manager of the place would say, "We got a brown trout in the bathroom," which is the one that didn't flush.
What we call a blind mullet in salt
Yeah,
water.
there you go. So every now and then, every time someone says brown trout, we got to make a sound on the board that brown trout when you hit it. Brown trout, something of Charlie Levine saying, "This is Charlie Levine saying this." So basically, he asks both of you: would you rather sail around the world or drive the fastest boat to Cuba?
Oh, it's an easy
Whatever that
question.
means.
Go around the world.
Absolutely. Easy question.
Yeah. Because Cuba's part of that.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
All right, you can make Cuban part of that portfolio.
You can do all that in that deal, and yeah, but travel is probably the most enlightening thing anyone can do.
Yeah.
You're exposed to culture, you're exposed to different foods, you're exposed to different ways of life, and it probably puts your life in a better perspective.
Yeah, it's the biggest cure for racism, too, I think.
No question.
Traveling.
100%.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
100% agree with sailing around the world. I don't like to go fast, you know?
Well, 10 knots isn't all bad chugging around. You know?
two bent butts out at all times, you know?
That's it.
All right. That's good. That's good. Thanks, Charlie. All right, I will call you Sir Charlie because I know if I don't
Sir
now
Charlie.
at this point, he's going to give me crap about it.
And rightfully so, Sir
Right.
Charlie.
And this is this next person that asks a question. We're beyond the Sir now, and we're gonna move into the King realm.
Oh.
Okay. And you probably will agree with me. You might laugh and agree at the same time. But Dave Boltice asks a question.
Your
brother.
My big Tuna brother.
Right? And he wants to also say, by the way, I am the older twin.
He's the older twin.
That's what he says.
He is. He came out first.
So he says, ask him about the world famous tuna twins and fishing in Cat Cay with the scientist from the large pelagic research team on board.
Yep. Michelle was the scientist. Molly Litcavage came down. Large Pelagic Research Institute came down for our IGFA Cat Cay tournament that Costa put on. You know, Costa did the tournament, but we did the kind of the IGFA team. And I took a 46 Merit over and had Dave Boltice and Carl Lederman and let's see, I had Brian Fengler from here as a mate, local kid, Brian, great fisherman. And I had, I was thinking who else? Court was with us, Court Vernon. And anyway, so Dave and I are, you know, we're kind of goofing around and we're on the edge and we're looking for fish. Anyway, this girl, Michelle, she was very intrigued and she was along with us to tag a fish if we caught one. So throughout the course of a couple days, you know, we absolutely have her convinced that we are twins, and she's totally buying it and everything. And I mean, no doubt, you know. So you know, I think at one point Dave's in the tower, I'm in the tower. There's not a whole lot of room left.
Right.
Anyway, she's up there with us, and we're talking about all this stuff, and you know, we're talking about as young kids what our mom and dad were like, and all this stuff. And she's just like, wow, this is so great, you know. And she left. She really, really, truly believed that we were brothers, and I think she still does because I never told her. I never said a word. I never straightened her out, and I still contact with her. She's a great gal, but you know, we had a lot of fun with that. And we had a lot of fun that week in Cat Cay. It was a great event, and you know, we had a bunch of boats there that kind of like the return to Cat Cay deal, you know.
Right.
And you know, Roy came over and brought the little 42, and I had the 46 there, and I don't know, we put together a nice little fleet to go over. Ray came over, he was on a boat, and Ray Rocher, and you know, we had a couple times. I think Billy Harrison came over. I don't know. We had a host of.
You've just fished with all the great ones, haven't you?
It's been pretty lucky, yeah.
It's
Yeah, you know what I think of? I don't know about you guys. Do you guys like if you like country music? There's a song by older country music, which I do.
I do too.
By Georgia Jones. It's called "Who's Gonna Fill Their Shoes."
Yeah.
You know that song?
Right.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's a point. I think about this quite a bit. You know, like when you talk with you guys and Skip and everything like that. I mean, you guys are still doing it, right? But I mean, you know, I feel like it's cool to think about who's the next generation of people that's going to come up, and you guys have helped foster a lot of that stuff. And I think, like you said, like the Skip Danas and the Art Sapps and the, you know, those guys and the RJ Boyles, guys in that next level kind of coming up. Even, you know, that's just here locally, right?
Yeah.
But I mean, there's guys around the world that I think the guys like Skip and Karl and many others in the legendary captains have probably mentored and have probably worked with over the years that are,
No doubt.
you know, that, you know, but it's not there yet. You know, like these guys are, you know, like you're still running boats, Skip's still running boats. I mean, you guys are still fishing, but you know, I like that song. I hear that song. I think about, you know, who's gonna. It's a big shoes to fill. You know, it's big shoes to fill.
I mean, I'm gonna go back again to that sword that was caught the other day by Little Timmy. And I mean
Timmy.
that I mean, that's what we just call him, Little Timmy, you
yeah.
know, or Goose. You know, a lot of people call him Goose or whatever like that. I always just call him Little Timmy. Anyone knows his dad, sometimes will call him that. You know, and that was just so flippin' inspiring to me.
No question.
because I'm like,
He's
here
out
it is,
doing it.
all these big heavy hitters dropping for daytime swords all the time, right out of here, right out of Port Everglades. They're all running out to the canyons, and like those 3 kids,
Yeah.
4 kids come back with that fish, and I was like, man, you just instantly put a stamp on your shelf.
No
You know,
question.
for the rest
They
of
are
your
great
life.
kids too.
No
Yeah, they
question.
are. They are. I mean, Timmy's been on the show before. We brought the team, the Pelagic Florida Man team, on the show once, and he's been on. It was nice having him in.
Yep.
And Timmy, he said he wants to come in to those kids to come onto the show to talk about
Okay,
That'd
cool.
be cool. That'd be a good
catch. You know what I mean? So,
Oh yeah.
one. Be a good one.
but
Like you say, that's the.
but I look at that and you talk about who's going to shoot right there.
Yeah.
Tells you.
That's
know what
true.
I mean?
Well-
Like they're. I mean, what about that fish tells you that they're not ready?
Well, now they got
How the hell they even get that in the boat?
now they got a goal to break, right? So they set the bar. So
Right.
now now they're in their minds are like, we got to go beat the bar,
Yeah.
right? So it's going to drive them to do more. So,
Yeah.
I mean, I think that's part of what is inside all of us. If you have any competitive nature whatsoever, it's okay, how am I going to do better at this, and what's my next?
Yeah.
Mhm.
Because
Yeah.
you're only as good as your last day driving the boat. That's I mean, you
Right.
you can't stack up good days and hold them in. It's not like a battery; it doesn't save. You're only as good as the last day you fished.
And
It's,
this is another reason why I continuously compare fishing to art. Because being what I do, yes, I paint fish for a living, but I always look at the sport of fishing or just the life of fishing as an art in itself. Because as an artist, I see so many parallels. Right?
For sure.
It's the same thing about completing your last painting.
Yep.
Right.
Yep.
It's like, okay, cool, awesome, you did a great job. You got a lot of likes. You sold it for a lot of money. Everyone's, okay, good artist. Even like you look at the bridge, I can't rest my laurels in that.
yeah, right.
You know what I mean? It's,
Yeah.
that's awesome. It's a nice feather in my cap, but what's next?
What's next?
That's all people really care about. It's like a musician, same thing. You're only as good as your last album.
Amen.
That's it.
Amen.
Yeah,
You
I
used-
hear you.
You were in the music industry, right?
I did. I was in the music industry for 17 years.
What did you do exactly?
So I was a creative director for a company called Alliance Entertainment, and we were the glue that kept the industry together. So we were responsible for this is when music was a product and not a streamed digital thing, right? So we were the world's largest distributor of CDs, DVDs, and Blu-ray. We had direct relationships with all the major record labels and movie studios, Universal, Warner Brothers, Sony, and we were responsible for getting it out to mass media. So we would fill all the mom and pop record stores all over the world. We were responsible for stocking Target, Best Buy, Barnes & Noble, Walmart, you name it. Like we put all the product in the store. So we would direct market, we would direct advertise, and that's what I was responsible for doing. So
Okay.
basically doing all, I mean, you name something that we've designed, I've designed for it.
Wow.
You know, like no matter trade show displays, I mean, apparel, I mean, we had a weekly magazine, monthly music magazine. I've done it all. I had a team of 20 designers underneath me to help out doing it.
Wow.
So that's the industry that I all the free concerts you could stand. We went to every show. So we
Did
had
you ever-
people come into our place and do performances. It was a cool
Yeah.
world to live in. But my passion was here. You know, my passion was in fish. I mean, like we discussed on Fly's podcast the other day, I'm 17 years old. I'm at the IGFA banquet down at the Breakers selling paintings to Trent Barta.
Yeah.
You know,
that's
when I was
awesome.
a little kid.
Yeah, yeah.
You know what I mean? That's where I belong. You know what I
Right.
mean? The industry, the music industry thing was cool.
Yeah.
It was fun. And I did it for 17 years because I couldn't leave it because it was so cool.
Right.
But eventually I had to, water finds its level.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
for
I
sure.
had to be where I belonged.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That was it, and here we are.
Water.
Now we're
finds its
opening our
level.
store.
I love it.
Yeah, so it's exciting. So, yeah.
Cool. Good.
But yeah, the music industry was great, you know. And I could tell you one thing too, like a lot of people from the old job, they really support what we're doing here. Like they're like our best customers. Every time I come out with a new product or new sale, like 20 people from Alliance Entertainment are lining up buying it.
That's
Cool.
cool.
Yeah, it's a great relationship.
That's a
It's a
great-
family there.
That's
for
really
sure.
cool.
Yeah.
Where was that based out of? Miami?
No, we were, I started in Miami as Baston Distributors, and it became Alliance because they merged with like 3 other companies that did the same thing as what made them the world's largest.
Right.
We were based out of Coral Springs for years, and then they moved out to Sawgrass. And then once they moved out to Sawgrass, was kind of like the decline
Yeah,
of
right.
you know digital
Streaming
started.
came in
Yeah,
and-
it really killed the industry.
Yeah.
So they had they weathered the storm through different distribution methods, and they had that distribution arm. You know what I mean? That really helped them get through it. But
So my music story.
yeah.
So
Let me have it.
I was you asked, so my degree's in telecommunications. I was doing sound work all over the place, and I had in my wild and untamed youth had met some really nice folks that played some music, friends of mine from California. And
play
anyway,
too?
No, I don't, not at all. Anyway, met Toby Scott, who's Bruce Springsteen's engineer, and got to hang out with Toby. Became a good buddy, and I was in Kutztown, and I would go into New York and into the Hit Factory studio, and he'd be recording stuff and everything. Yep. And anyway, after I graduated, one of my first jobs, Toby hired me to be the sound man for the video, Brilliant Disguise, for Bruce's video. And we shot it out at the Sandy Hook Coast Guard station, and I was the boom guy. So there was the cameraman, and the director was Mira Davis, who had done U2's, The Streets Have No Name, and all, where they're on the rooftop
what
in
a
LA.
Great video that was.
And he was a really cool guy. But Toby got me that gig, and we're still buddies. He's out in Whitefish, Montana now. I talk to him, and but anyway, that's my music story. I was the boom man for the.
I like it.
Which came out on Tunnel of Love, but the song was Brilliant Disguise.
Yeah, we used to have a bunch of people come to our facility at Coral Springs to do performances, and they would come just before they were famous. So when they would come perform, you didn't know whether or not this was someone you wanted to hang your hat on, right? So, I mean, when I'm talking like Britney Spears came when she was 15, did a performance for us. Nobody knew who she was. And 2 weeks later, that famous video of her in the Catholic schoolgirl outfit comes out on MTV, and I'm like, wait a minute, that's the girl that just played, right?
That's crazy.
Yeah. And then Pink did a performance, you know what I mean?
Philly
Ben
Chick.
Harper. Yeah. So, I mean, like a lot of famous people came to do these performances, but for every Ben Harper, for every Pink, for every Britney Spears, there's a joy drop that you'll never hear from again. You know, or some other band that what Alan Thicke's kid, what Robin Thicke came and did the performance, and everything. You're thinking, oh, this is Alan Thicke's kid, and everyone knew it going into the show, and you're thinking, oh yeah, well his dad just got him through this. You know what I mean? And you didn't realize he was going to end up being famous and the whole thing. So this is, it's cool.
That is cool.
Last question for our strange questions comes from another fellow writer, Sam White. For Karl, what is the scariest time that you've ever had on the water? I know you've been through some boat fires and stuff, pretty gnarly, but good lessons to learn. I don't know what he's talking about, but that's what he asked.
Yep, had a fire. I spent 3 years going back and forth to New Zealand building a 90-foot by 26-foot wide catamaran sport fishing boat.
3 years going back and forth to New Zealand? That alone's a great story.
Yeah. Oh yeah, it was a great time.
Like the Lord of the Rings land.
It was neat. I mean, got to trout fish, got to do all kinds of stuff. Went up to the Bay of Islands, fell in love with the place. At any rate, we go through this build, and the boat's kind of it's a really neat boat. It runs real good, and the hope was that we would really use it hard here. Anyway, we get the thing, and it's going to come into Jacksonville on the ship. So I get Gary Stoof, one of our legendary captain crew guys, a good old friend of mine, a great guy who's probably got more experience with anything than, as far as boat stuff goes. I mean, he's just, you're going to go to sea with somebody, you want a guy like Gary with you. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? I mean, you got baling tape and duct wire, you're getting home, I mean, a coat hanger, whatever. I mean, Gary will figure it out. I mean, Gary fished the damn Buccaneer tournament one year by fixing his steering on the boat that I just rebuilt. The 1965 was called CMC at that time, but now it's called Picaflor. He fished the last day of the Buccaneer with a coat hanger to hold his steering together, and fished all day.
Really?
Yeah. Gary's he's unbelievable, right? Very, very crafty. And anyway, so I'm like, Gary, man, we got to go get this 90-footer off the ship. Now, he had just built Greg Norman's 87-foot Ocean Fast in Australia during the same time. We were both doing these projects. And so anyway, the boat's coming in. Gary and I, we drive up to Jacksonville, and we get there. And of course, unload the boat, get it off the ship, and I have the guy who was managing the company, a guy named Mel Jones, and a friend of his, John Bogarni. And anyway, we get the thing unloaded off the ship, and as you can imagine, things go not as well as you'd want, and we had some fuel issues, and we're pulling away from the ship and going out into the channel, and boat stalls. And figured, okay, the fuel filters, there's air pockets, whatever. We had run the boat a ton in New Zealand. The boat ran great. It was, it was a really neat boat. But anyway, Gary hits the buttons and the starter sticks, and so now we've got a starter just jammed on crank. Now it's catamaran, so these are 2471 engines, 24 cylinders. These things are longer than a school bus, and so and the hatch to get in is on this upper level.
How big is this catamaran?
90 feet by 26 feet wide.
Damn.
So, starter stuck, shit's hitting the fan, and there's some smoke coming out. So I lift open the hatch. Of course, Gary's driving, and I'm big mistake. The battery switches were put at the front end of the engine room instead of at the back. So now I got to go down there and shut the power off to kill the starter. So I've got to go in the hole and go forward 24 cylinders plus, probably about 12 feet, and it's just pouring smoke. Now the starter's right here on this inboard side of the motor, and there's oil lines and stuff over top of it, and I grab a breath. I get halfway and I'm like, fuck, I can't, not gonna make it. You go back up, regroup, and now the smoke's really coming, and to the point where the guys from New Zealand, they're grabbing their bags and putting them on the gunnel in the
Getting
cockpit,
ready to go.
right? So I gather one last hurrah, go down, haul ass, get past all the stuff, singed my, and anyway, turn the battery off, haul ass out, barely got out. I mean, I was just like, I had no air left at all because I was jacked up.
Yeah.
I was like, I'm trying to think, okay, diving,
Yep.
Right. Yeah.
relax, well, you can't relax, man. You're just so
Yeah, the adrenaline's
cranked.
there. It ain't going away.
Anyway, so we had things still smoking like crazy. Now I get fire extinguishers and I'm going in there trying to get fire out. Now I've just put acid all over this brand spanking new engine room. Right? And I'm like, just everything. So we limp our way to this marina right by the cut and, get in there, start evaluating. I'm like, boy, this is not good. So now I got to get in there. Gary was, I'll never forget Gary's, we're putting around. I go up there and I'm like, holy smokes, man, that was not good, And he's like, yeah, because I knew it was really bad when they started putting their bags on the covering board.
Yeah.
He's like, I couldn't see what was going on. Anyway, the current's running and the wind's blowing and pushing us over. He's got one motor on a catamaran and we're like doing circles, Anyway, we limp our way to this deal. We tie up and spent 3 days, trying to clean the engine room because the acid's just eating everything. And anyway, that was spooky.
So 3 years to build that boat, and that was day one?
That was day one. Got it to Stewart and realized it really wasn't going to do anything and made a move, got off the boat, and started on the little 37 Briar Patch and with Mark O'Brien. And that been with Mark O'Brien for 30 years. That's been a hell of a run.
Wow.
Yeah, it's great.
Wow.
But the other scary one was the sinking, trying to, saving the boat from sinking. So the second Briar Patch was a 45-foot Rybovich. And first trip, we surveyed, did all that stuff. So first trip is go to San Salvador. So we go down to San Salvador. And actually, that same trip, we had the Briar Patch there, and the Sea Lion came, and I did a show with Flip Pallet during that time we were there. Anyway, on the way home, they all fly out of San Salvador, and I bringing the boat home, and I get, like 5 miles out of Hybern Key, and the high water alarms are going off, and I kind of started to feel it. I was, kind of sloshy and all, a little different. When the higher water alarm went off, I went, oh, fuck, here we go again. And so I run down, first place you look's Lazarette, dry as a bone. Okay, go in, open up the engine room hatch, dry, no problem. Go down below, and it's kind of like, I don't have lights on or anything. It's the end of the day and everything, and I watch and water. And I look down, I'm like, oh, shit. And, there's water coming up in the port stateroom. There's a hatch, and it's like kind of doing this, floating, and there's water pouring out. And I'm like, okay, here we go.
In the stateroom?
Yeah. So we, pull her back. I had already pulled her back, but anyway, chugging along, and I start peeling everything out of there and start looking. I see where the water's coming from, and there's a intermediate stringer between the main stringer and the chine. There was an intermediate stringer, and it was like 2x2. And it was just like a stiffener that they had put in. This was the first cold molded boat that Rybovich had made. And it was 45 footer. It was built as the Frisky Lady for Jack Willits, who was an IGFA trustee for years. Anyway, over the years, it had been, a couple guys have been on there running hard. I mean, Ben DeGutis was the captain on it, and he was just as gentle as could be with it, but there were some other guys maybe ran a little harder. Anyway, it had popped that deal, this stiffener up, and pulled bolts through it. And somebody had repaired it and tried to put a bigger bolt in with a washer. Anyway, it pulled through. So there's this hole like this, and it's just, well, good news is, when I was going slow, it wasn't that bad. But now I got to get the water out. So looking at the things, and I'm pulling stuff apart in the head and everything, and I'm looking at the bilge pumps, and I'm going, what the hell's going on here? And I never caught it during the survey. The surveyor never caught it. But we got a 1,500 gallon per hour bilge pump being pumped into a sump box for the shower that only had an 800 or 1,000. So I'm like, I'm doubling the volume of water going into this box, and the box is like,
oh my God,
water's pouring out. I'm not getting rid of the water. I'm not shedding the water.
So it's not even a breach.
Oh, it was a breach. I had no water coming in from the bottom, but I can't get rid of the water.
You're pumping it right back in.
Right.
It's like
Right.
I'm only using 800 to take
I get
1,000, right?
Yeah.
So now I'm like, all right, so now I get the wash down hose and start rigging everything to be able to pump. I got a hose running out the boat, pumping overboard, and I know I'm in deep water, and I'm going, man, I just got to get to the bank.
Right.
I just got to get to the bank, man. So anyway, I nurse through. We got rid of it, and it's dark now, and I find my way into Hybrid Key. There's Carl heads everywhere, all kinds of stuff. Anyway, we get into there, and I'm like, son of a gun, man, this isn't good, So I'm like, I got to look at. So I jump overboard. I got a flashlight, and I'm looking, and I'm like, man, there's just this little crack in this little hole, but it's enough. And so I, call the boss, and I'm like, got some good news. I got some bad news. Bad news is, I got a hole in the boat, and then, I'm taking on water. Good news is we haven't sunk yet. And
Not yet.
And I'm like, I'm laying there and I'm thinking, man, I'm like, all right. So I'm thinking I got to put something on the bottom. So of course there's all kinds of solutions. The one guy brings me over stuff. You break it and you make a Tootsie Roll, 2 pieces of epoxy, and you break it. And I'm thinking, all right, I'll jam that under. Well, I go under and I start doing it. It just like incinerates me. Like that's not gonna work, So I come back up, and then there's this guy. He's like, I know what I'll do it. He said, I got this stuff that sets up. You can make a temporary cast. And he goes, if you cut a piece, maybe put it on, it'll hold on. I'm like, hey, I'll try it. So I go under and get that, and I put it up
like
there.
Like a plaster of
like,
Paris kind of thing.
Like, okay, well that's not gonna work. And so anyway, I'm like, all right, just. We'll sort this out. So I took a piece of plastic and, put it up against there. And it actually, there was enough to let water in. It was like creating a suction.
Yeah.
So all night I lay there on the floor, and I lay there with my hand in the bilge. I now have reconnoitered a bunch of pumps to, I know I can get water out. But I laid there, I thought, well, if the water comes up high and hits my hand, I'll wake up. And, anyway, it didn't happen. So the next morning I get a tank and I jump overboard and look at everything in daylight, and I'm like, all right, it's not that bad, and I'll probably be all right if I don't run.
It must have been a long night.
So it was a long night. So anyway, I give the tank back to that guy. So that day we went across to, and I called the owner. I called Mark O'Brien that morning. I said, all right, look, here's my plan. I'm gonna leave and just chug to Nassau. I'll get to Nassau, I'll haul out, fix the bottom, and get myself home. So, and I said, look, the worst thing that can happen is, we'll go down, we'll be in, 12 feet of water. I'll be in the tower drinking a beer. Just come find me, trying to make light of it, But I'm thinking, Anyway, we get to Nassau, and sure enough, get to Nassau, and it's a Bahamian holiday.
Oh,
the next day. So I go see the guy about hauling the boat out, and he's like, oh, I can't haul that boat out. I go, why? And he goes, well, because I'll crush the spray rails. And I'm like, buddy, that's the last of my worries. I'll fix the spray rails. I just need you to lift up. I don't care about the spray rails. I'll get, I'll deal with this. So, no, can't do it. And I'm like, man, you son of a gun, you. So I go down to the marine store knowing that I've got like an hour to get all my stuff because the next day it's closed. So I go in there, I buy 2-inch stainless steel nails, and I got a bunch of epoxy kits, all kinds of different epoxies, right? And I got 5,200. I had a piece of plywood on the deck with a freezer on it because we take freezer with bait and everything. And I'm like, I'll cut that plywood, put that up there, nail it in, put 5,200, and I'll epoxy it to it, and I'll get home. So, needless to say, I get the tank, I do all this stuff, and I cut the board, and getting everything ready, and we put 5,200 seam around it, and I got epoxy in there, and I go underwater, and I try to get it under the boat, and I'm like, it flies out. I'm like, oh shit!
I can't think about that.
I can't get the plywood under the boat. Anyway, I finally get the plywood under there, And I get it in place, and I got it, and I'm like, and imagine underwater, right? So I got this mallet in my weight belt, this hammer. I take the hammer, and and I try to nail, and I'm like, and you got nothing. And I'm like, you ever tried to nail underwater with a hammer? No, you can't get a shit.
It's like in a dream trying to punch.
Right.
And I'm like, nothing. So I go get this guy. I go out and I'm like, I'm standing there in all my gear, and this guy's on the dock. I'm like, hey, you got a mallet on your thing? So he's like, yeah, I got a 2-pound mallet. I'm like, give me it, man. I said, So, now I got a crowd watching me. It's just like a circus going on. So I get the mallet. I go under there and I'm like, whack, boom, and I'm like, yes, okay. So now you got to remember it's fiberglass and it's it's triple plank mahogany and everything. But I got this patch on there that's like this wide, this long. Get the thing on there. I put nails this far apart all the way around. I'm like, man, if I run, the water's going to come in and it's going to peel the plywood off and all this stuff. So I put nails like, it's like, I use the whole bag. Anyway.
Can't tie a knot, tie a lot, right?
Exactly, man. I'm like, you know what, man, the more the matter. So anyway, I get this epoxy stuff and I feather the edge, the leading edge, because, man, I don't want that water getting in there and everything. I'm like, all right, So I keep going down later, and I get it all done. And later, I do a test dive. I'm not getting any water inside the boat, but I go under and look at it, and I'm like, man, I'm good. We're okay. So I call Mark. I'm like, look, I'm leaving tomorrow. Go to Bimini. I'll go slow and everything, because the worst part is when I get into deep water and I get to tongue of the ocean. But then again, I'm going to be on the flats after that, so I'll be cool. So I just got that first part of the morning. I'm going to be a little, in the deep water. Anyway, we get going, and I'm going real easy. And I get up to like 10 knots and, going to check it. And then I push her up and get like 12 knots. And I'm like, man, still no water. I'm good. So I just stick in there around 12, 13 knots. And anyway, I get up on the bank and I'm like, well, no water yet. So I push her up a little more. I'm now making 15. I'm like, no water. I'm like, oh, this is great, man. Anyway, I pull into Bimini, and I'd already talked to Roy and told Roy, I said, look, I'm going to be coming in. I probably need to haul me out like when I get there. Now,
right.
This is like Friday. So Friday night, I pull into Bimini. Alan Merritt's there, and he's on his boat, and he comes over, and he sits on the pylon, and he's like, so, got any water? You already knew the story. I'm like, no, I'm good. I'm all right. I'm going to get up early and, go to the yard. And he's like, all right, well, come on over and, have a drink and some dinner. So I go over to the Caliban with Al, and, we have lobster and snapper and, a bunch of rum and everything else.
You're doing a 180 from where you were.
Yeah, man. I'm like, like I'm close to home, baby. I got Big Al blessing me. I'm cool. So anyway, I get up early in the morning and we leave. We pull right into Merritt's, and Roy's. I call him. And he's sitting there on the travel lift waiting for me. We pull it out, pull the boat up. Mark O'Brien comes over from Tampa, the owner, picks me up and checks it out. He's like, man, good job. You got the boat home. Blah blah blah. Drives me up to Stewart, drops me off. He goes home. I got Sunday, I'm like, oh, goddamn. I've gone a while, thank God. Anyway, I go in Monday morning. I'm a little late. I get there at like 9 o'clock. And Vic Albertson, who's a longtime carpenter at Merritt's, really talented guy. And anyway, he's been assigned to get the patch off. And anyway, I pull in and
good luck.
I pull in and I'm looking, and he's just standing there looking at me. And Vic has a very, imposing look. He's, kind of rough and ready. And anyway, he looks at me and he's like, what in the hell, different language, did you do? And I'm like, what are you talking about? And he's like, what did you use to put the patch on? And I'm like, well, a little 5200, a whole lot of epoxy, and a bunch of nails. He's like, yeah, no shit. Yeah. He's like, I can't get it off. Couldn't get the patch off.
Yeah, well, I needed to go home.
And I'm like, hey, I got home, and if you can't get it off, we'll leave it on there. I don't give a shit. Right. Anyway,
sounds like you did a great job. You could have probably gone 25 knots.
Yeah, could have run the whole way. Anyway, we get the patch off. We redo it. We take the whole boat apart inside. New stringers, new everything, pulled the motors out, rebuilt the motors and everything, redid a whole number on the boat, and then put her all back together. And she was like 21, 22 knots. And after we redid all that bottom work, we had the engines done. And when we brought her back out, she was 30 knots and a ripper. And, boat held 1,000 gallons of fuel. Great boat. It's in Puerto Rico, still fishing to this day, as a matter of fact.
Is the patch still on it?
No, they took the patch off. But the inside patches that we did her on, we glassed it and did all kinds of stuff. We really stiffened her up, made her. It was a hell of a boat. But anyway, that would probably be the other one.
Oh my God, that's Well,
little
I
things
think
like
you
that
answered
teach you a
Sam's
lot.
question, right?
Yeah.
And then you got.
Have you read my encyclopedia?
That's what I was about to say. You got a fellow encyclopedia
Were you-
reader there.
Were you solo on the boat?
No.
You
I had
someone else?
I had somebody with Barry Robinson with me. Yeah,
Gotcha.
another experienced captain. His father was a local guy here and fished out of Hillsborough. Illinois.
That's nuts, man.
Barry was with me. Yeah.
That's awesome. That's awesome. And the question from Sam for you, I think we kind of already glossed over. He asked also, what's the most off the wall request that you've had come through the IGFA? So I think we kind of went at that at length earlier. So that's it for our strange questions.
All right.
So you guys, I
fairly
think that
easy.
was the most thorough analysis of the strange question segment that we've ever had, and I'm proud of it.
That's
Yeah.
good.
So yeah, that's awesome. So we have to pick a winner of the best question. And we will send them a Connected by Water podcast T-shirt. So we can do that for anyone on the list, and they can all get a T-shirt, really. But because these are all great guys.
They're all
but-
great questions.
So who had the great question, or should we say who had the best answer?
I mean, Carl's sinking story. I mean,
Right.
can't compare with that, man. That's it.
All right, so
I would say Sam gets one.
Sam gets a T-shirt. Sam White, you win a T-shirt.
Sam wins the shirt.
Yep.
Right. So I'm sure he's
Yeah, absolutely.
going like that right now. So awesome. That was really.
Cool.
You're the man for bringing him in.
Dude, being on a sinking boat's no fun. No
No.
fun.
He's like, yeah. So we'd plan this podcast, right? And then we had to postpone it, and then we did a podcast right after with Fly or whatever like that. But originally, like, hey, he's like, I want to bring Karl. Like, you're damn right, bring him in. You know what I mean? This is great. You know what I mean? So for sure.
Pleasure to be here. Believe
Yeah,
me.
no,
it really
I mean,
is.
Jack,
you.
you can stay in the car. Just bring Carl.
Not at all.
No.
Then we wouldn't have found out
Teamwork,
about
yeah,
the Alabama
teamwork.
rig.
Yeah,
Teamwork.
Carl's been huge, man, over the past couple of years and everything. Even before I started working at IGFA, and just with getting this tournament off and everything like that, him, Skip, just hitting these guys up and getting some insight forward because this is this was IGFA's relaunch back in the tournament.
Right.
Field last year when we did this light tackle open. Now we had the permit tournament. Now we got the swordfish tournament in Southern California next year, or this year in November. So I mean, it's clicking along. We got our trusty in Italy, Massimo, who wants to do a bluefin tournament over in the Med.
Oh, really?
In 2022. So yeah.
And the swordfish tournament.
Yeah.
So
I wanna go to that.
It's some cool stuff, Some
Yeah,
cool stuff.
yeah.
And but Carl's been very helpful with getting us back into that. And it's
So you've been doing a lot of work with the IGFA
Oh,
over the years.
Yeah.
I mean, and that's awesome that you still do and
Yeah.
kind of keep. And I really think that speaks to the whole kind of connected by water theory. Not to try to bring our brand back into the
Oh,
fold,
for sure.
but this is just our philosophy overall. It's just building that life around those relationships and and kind of forming that. We talked about it earlier. Like, wow, we're all able to like make a living at our passion. And it's so rewarding. It really is. But I think the most important part of it is not ever forgetting
Right.
the path that you walked and the people that you met along the way, and then continue with those relationships. You brought up earlier, getting those opportunities and using those opportunities and taking it one step at a time. You know what I mean? And I think that really just speaks volumes when a guy like you sticks with an organization like this over time, and that's basically strength right there.
When you, if you remember back right down the road here, IGFA's headquarters was on Atlantic. And
I tell my wife that all the time. That little
I still
building.
know the building. Yeah.
Yeah, that little building. When I was a little kid, this is how I got involved with the IGFA. I was 17 years old in high school. I had a little sailfish painting. Right, I look back at it and it's horrible. right. But I met Jim Brown. I don't know if you remember Jim Brown. I met Jim Brown, and then he introduced me to Mike Leach. And then they're just kind of rubbing the top of my head, and they're like, "Hey, let's let him in the auction." You know what I mean? That kind of thing. And then I was in the Wildfish collection, reading Mary Alice from the Wildfish collection. They let me hang to work and everything else. So I'm being hung up to next to Don Ray's and like John
Opportunity.
Carroll Doyle's and all this. Exactly. And all that stuff. And every time I pass that building, I see what the IGFA is today.
And
It's just to have that perspective of knowing that little building is where it all started. It's just it always warms my heart every time I pass that building. I think of that.
when I go, I think about going in and meeting E.K. Harry, and the first time and meeting him and walking through the kind of the library, and I was with Peter Wright and I'll never forget that afternoon. We went in there for a quick visit, and I think we were there for 4 hours.
Yeah.
And it was just like, wow, this is Mr. Harry. And I mean, obviously, I knew the whole history of the thing and everything. I was a member, from
Yeah.
whatever. But I didn't have that connection. And then when you go into there, and then you do that, and then to see what it went through, and I was working for Johnny Morris when this building was built, and we would go in there and check it out as it was being done, and knew all the players, of course. Mr. Tyson, Don Tyson, and Mike Levitt. One of the greatest light tackle anglers ever. Those guys that were involved in helping get that thing going and got it done. They got it done. I mean, despite everything else, they spent a lot of money and put a lot of money in, and they were personally invested. But they made all this happen and to make it grow and give it a presence, and all those things come in.
And you've seen a lot of that. How you've been with the IGFA?
Yeah, almost 11 years.
Yeah, a long time.
It's
so you've seen, even in your time, you've seen a lot of it grow and develop like that as well.
Well, yeah. What Karl said is like that. Like when he went in and met EK, which I never had a chance to, would love to have met him, but he was one of IGFA's presidents. Then Mike Leach, and then Rob, and then Neil, and then Jason now. But the thing that Karl mentioned about being able to come in to IGFA, back then on Atlantic and walk around, that still holds true. I mean, obviously with the COVID thing, we kind of had to limit it, but, our museum's closed and everything like that, but the headquarters in the library is still there. And there's tons of stuff. We get people stopping by from all over the world that just want to come in and just, they're in town. They come to Miami for whatever
a beautiful
reason.
facility.
Yeah.
It really is.
And so, I mean, it's that whole, it's an international organization, but, there's a reason why IGFA headquarters is in South Florida. This is, like you said, the breadbasket, or we said the cradle.
Mecca. Yeah, well, I say
Fishing.
that this is the cradle of sport fishing is Pompano. Like just because I have that optic on it, you know what I mean?
Yep.
Yeah.
But I always say, as a marine life artist, like for me to be anywhere else in the world other than South Florida, because I feel like South Florida itself is just the Mecca.
Yeah.
It really,
no question about
of
it.
it all. You
No
know what I mean?
question.
You can go to Costa Rica, you go to Los Sueños and everything like that. Half the guys are from here.
Well, all your tackle developments occurred between this shore and Bimini. All your heavy tackle was developed there.
Hey,
and
you look at the Dudas family and everything that they've done for kite fishing.
fishing,
I mean, come on. Revolutionized the whole game right there.
I was in Palm Beach as a young guy, and John Dudas Sr. came up there on the L&H, which was a Jersey boat. It was L&H Plumbing. And anyway, he came up there and just smoked that fleet, flying kites and everything. And it changed Palm Beach. Palm Beach, those guys paid attention, and they switched. But he went up there, and I mean, man, he hammered it.
And a lot of them still dead bait troll, but they're like stuck on it. But you know what I mean. But it really did influence that.
The Stewart crowd, for sure,
the
is
Stewart
still,
crowd,
but it's different up there because the bottom widens out, the edge gets further offshore. It's not like here where it's nice and tight, and you've got a window where you've got current pushing up against the edge and everything, and
you got to cover more ground.
Kite fishing, and you get those little brown bomber sharks up there that just harass your live baits all day long relentlessly. So you go to trolling to counter that, and there's a lot of reasons. And it's I fished out of Stewart for 20 some years, before moving down here, and so I've kind of seen both sides of it, the trolling part. And I mean, when the dredge fishing all came in and everything, I mean, I was right there when all that was happening. It was really cool. And, then to come down here and, get an education and get my ass kicked kite fishing, seriously.
Those guys here got it dialed in.
Oh, man, like unbelievable.
Yeah.
And then, then you get to a point where you go, okay, we're pretty good. And then, when you get to go and fish with Ray Rocher and stuff, and you're picking things up and he's telling you he's open about stuff. Ray's great. He's been an unbelievable friend. He's got great equipment. I mean, he's developed all these special little intricacies for kite fishing that are, great tools, and they make you better.
I mean, how many times I used to fish in the tournament, and so many times you're just set up right next to him, like not that far. You're all just kites out the back, and that's Rocher next to you.
Yeah.
And you just hear it getting called over the radio nonstop, and you're like, and you're just like, wait a minute.
Yeah, or John,
we're here too.
Or John Louis.
Don't tell me the bites shut off. Yeah.
I mean, you cannot. Those guys are they're at the top of their game.
Yeah.
And, they're filling the shoes.
Yeah,
they are. There's no question, and we're seeing it. And I contend that these are the good old days because the fishing now is it's always cyclical, whether it's sailfish or white marlin or tuna, whatever. There are cycles where we have more and we have less. It's the guys that understand how to take advantage of it in all situations that still rise to the top and catch the most, whether you're catching 6 and 7 a day or 15 or 18 a day, right? So there's always this kind of the water. The water finds itself, the
water
level.
finds its own level.
You know what I mean? And so those guys come and they find it, and there's
You can speak to this too, like the Art, Sap, Skip Dana. They're regulars on the show. Like they come on every third or fourth episode, something like that, John. We do this.
Yeah,
tournament
once a month.
Yeah,
we'll
once
try
a
and
month
get
we
them
do
in.
this
They're
tournament
incredible.
talk episode, and they come on, and I'm blessed to have those guys come on the show all the time like that. But we talk about that all the time. Oh, you need more rum?
No,
I guess
they're
we're.
great.
He's got it.
But
Let
there
me know
might
when.
be something, and
Perfect.
this speaks to experience, right? There might be something in a tournament, whether it's like half an hour before line's out, and just the way a wind kicks up or something like. I felt that before. I know I need to go right here. You know what I mean? I know I need to do this little thing right there, and that's when you see in the last 20 minutes of a tournament. Oh yeah, Sandman hooked up with 3,
Yep,
or they
got
hit a
caught
triple, or something like that. And like, how the hell did that happen to that boat again?
looking at the water.
Yeah.
And, I mean, there's so many things. And don't forget, those guys are on the water every day.
Every day.
No.
Okay, so they know what's going on. The tide changed at this time. We need to be up here. We need to, and those are the things you got to pay attention to. And that's an advantage. And that's like when we fish places like Madeira and you're booked for 35 days straight, which is what I did. I mean, I fished every day. I barely gave myself enough time to change oil.
Yeah.
And because you're there at that spot where it can happen on any day. You might catch that fish. By God, you're going to fish every damn day you can.
Yeah.
You don't want to have a day off because, it's the day you take off is the day it happens. Ask Bart Garnsey.
Yeah. Right.
The classic Larry Martin story. Bart took the day off and Larry Martin catches the all-tackle record in St. Thomas that stood for almost 30 years.
Wow.
And Bark was not on the boat. His mate was running, Jimmy Unrath.
Speaking of record, and that just reminded me of something, right? And we can probably close with this, all right? And but I want to say one thing before I lead you up with this, okay? Is that this is why we started Connected by Water, and this is when I speak to saying like a Pompano cradle of sport fishing, South Florida, the mecca of all this stuff like that, right? To me, this is what fame is. Right, when you see all these people making podcasts and they're in LA or whatever, they're bringing on actors and different things like that. I can give 2 shits about those people. Right, these are the guys that are famous to me.
Yeah, right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, me too.
And these are the guys that make my world. You know, these are my heroes.
It's the guys you idolize.
You know what I mean? Yeah,
Totally.
these are the heroes
Skip
that we
Smith,
bring.
Bart Garnsey,
Absolutely.
Obie O'Brien,
Yeah.
Those are
it goes
legends
on
in
and
my
on.
mind.
Peter B. I mean, come on, man.
Those are guys that get out and they prove it.
I wanted to carry
what I
their
mean?
lunchbox down the dock. Please, can I come with you?
Absolutely.
Whatever it takes, man. Honestly.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Charles Perry.
That's really why we wanted to start this show, right? Because I wanted to bring on the real legends.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You want to say that REEL or REAL, it means the same thing.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
You know what I mean?
Same deal.
So one day that you were on that boat that caught those 300-something fish.
Yeah.
In one day.
Mm-hmm.
Can you take us through that a little bit? We can close out the show with this.
I want to say something before that, but I'll touch on
Yeah,
that.
go ahead.
You're talking about not charter, but like the guys that do this stuff and like the legends.
It's the Mag Bay one, right?
Yeah, but
Yeah,
I'm going to
yeah,
touch on something
yeah,
else before
okay.
that. I grew up fishing since I was a kid, started in like Illinois catching catfish, right?
Mm-hmm.
My goal, watching Norm Isaacs and it's on TV and everything, I wanted to be a charter boat captain when I was a kid.
Mm-hmm.
Growing up, that's all I wanted to do. I wanted to be a charter boat captain until the first time I went on a charter boat and I went out fishing for real. I went with Eddie Dwyer out of Canaveral, and we did the 100-mile trip, catch
Right.
yellowfin and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Wake up at 3 o'clock, whatever. These guys, have everything on the
Mm-hmm.
boat, all rigged up, ready to go. And I just realized what that did to me is like put in perspective how much hard work that goes into this, and long hours and time away from family, all that kind of stuff. And the guys that do this, they are legends because they give up a lot, in my opinion.
Yeah.
And seeing it from a different side,
Their wives are legends too, apparently.
Yeah,
having to put up with it.
If they last.
Yeah, if they last.
I'm just saying, like, it's a tough thing, but like I would just say, like, hats off to all these guys that do this for a living. I mean, it's like, it's not easy. Where I sit,
It's hard work, man.
Luckily, I get to fish. I don't get to fish as much as I want, but these guys are. This is why having someone like Karl, Skip, any of these other younger guys involved with the IGFA, I mean, shit, I'm not out there 7 days a week fishing.
Right.
I'm behind a computer, like doing stuff like that. I wish, I'd like to be out there.
I can relate. You know what I mean? I listen. I got to pay the bills and keep the lights on here. You know what I mean? Yeah, for sure.
So there's a
only one way to do
huge
that.
amount of respect that I think I have, and I think the IGFA has. Because you look at back in the history, IGFA founder Mike Lerner, who was super influential with him, Tommy Gifford, man. Tommy Gifford was his captain, and he was the guy that was out there catching fish. So I mean, you just got to have that balance. But to the Mag Bay story.
Before we do that, but it's good time for a good plug for our legendary captain and crew, Tommy Gifford Award.
Exactly.
Yeah, go ahead.
Which is probably, I think, coming from where I came from and doing what I do, to me, it's the most prestigious award that can be given because it is the guys that are busting chops.
That's the creme de la creme
of
what you if you're doing this for a living, I mean, you can achieve nothing higher.
It is like the biggest honor I have, honestly, is being on that committee and being able to participate in finding who's there and doing the research.
A marine life artist eligible.
Incredible.
Hall of Fame, yes. Hall of Fame, yes.
Yeah.
But not the Tommy Gifford, which is why it's so cool.
Yeah.
Because you can, like Carl's saying, IGFA Hall of Fame, which, it's like Baseball Hall of Fame, Football Hall of Fame. It's like the greats of the sport. And you get guys like for the Football Hall of Fame. You got like Chris Berman, right? A commentator or someone like that.
Right.
I think he's in there. And that's what the Hall of Fame kind of is. You get guys like,
and people who've had impact from the industry in general.
Right.
Conservationists, like guys like, what's his name? You got guys like Guy Harvey, who's an artist, conservationist. You got, anglers. You have captains. You have John Graves, Dr. John Graves, who's done, Barbara Block. These huge people have done great conservation work for the organization. But the Tommy Gifford Award is strictly for captains, right? Captains and mates and people that have, they live it.
Performers of the sport.
Exactly. And you can have some of those that trickle over to the Hall of Fame as well. But this is designated for those guys and ladies that do that. So, I don't know. The Tommy Gifford Award is something that, a lot of people don't necessarily know about the IGFA.
Right.
We have these events every year. This year's a little different. But, I mean, you're talking guys like, Gary Stoof, Steve Lastly, Bart Garnsey, the legends. These are the guys that are, the best of the best.
Yeah.
And the people that put people in the Hall of Fame on the fish.
Yeah.
Put it that way.
Right.
True story.
Yeah. So that was a good segue there. But
yeah, no, I'm glad you mentioned that for sure because I mean
it's a big deal.
Hey,
sometimes like knowing the IGFA for as long as I have, I sometimes assume that people know everything that goes on with the industry of what it's all about and everything like that. But maybe you're right. We got to like lay things out like that and say, no, this is IGF freaking A. You know what I mean? It's like this is you can get like this is the authority of this industry, and I firmly believe that. Like it's like we're. Like I said the other day on Fly Sing, when the IGFA opens their mouth, everybody listens.
Well, we take that
because
seriously.
they have to.
We take it seriously.
Yeah.
We take it seriously. Another serious question here. Would it screw up your podcast if I took a quick restroom?
No, but I think
before the Mag Bay, before we talk about Mag Bay.
Oh no, you can go. I'll just bullshit with Carl. I'll just
Give me 2
bullshit with Carl. Sorry, so listen,
I'm watching the clock too.
Listen, we got to talk.
I'm hurting.
Are we getting close? Yeah.
What?
To memory lapse or whatever?
No, I gotta.
Oh, you gotta go too.
Yeah.
All right.
These guys
we're gonna say a bunch of crap about Jack.
They've never spent a day on the bridge where you can't pee.
Right.
Yeah.
So you got to hold it. That's one thing you learn running a boat. Like
John's a snook master. Like.
Oh.
Yeah.
He's talking about a different bridge on a sport fish.
No, I understand. I know.
So like when
I'm just saying, but I just wanted them to know that this guy is a very good angler.
When I moved to Stewart, man, let me tell you, that was chasing those snook I was like infected with it.
Oh my God,
that's
an area.
Much fun. Oh.
Snookosaurus. I'm supposed to go fishing with my buddy George God soon. He's a snook authority up there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, that place is fun.
Need to go soon while they're still stacked up on the bridges.
I was just talking to him a little bit this morning, about it. But I do have to go. So my issue, that's part of my issue with opening this place lately is like I've been turning down like every day, like, hey, you want to come? And like
Can't go.
Yeah, it's even with now it's sailfish tournament season. You know what I mean? And I got an open ticket on Singularis right now to go whenever I want. And I keep telling Captain John, I'm like, Not today. Silver Sailfish Derby.
Yeah.
I can't make it. You know what I mean? Because we're opening this place, and everything went into this place.
You got artwork to put on the walls, so would you get your shit together?
Yeah, I know. I know, but I'll probably fish the challenge. I'll definitely going to be fishing the Jimmy Johnson. That's our show.
Well, the one thing about it is if you don't go fishing, you're screwing up your life because you need that balance.
Yeah,
you have to have it. You really do.
Now what we're going to do, since I'm here, right, is we're got Taha Marine right there 100 feet away. Is that I'm going to do some morning wahoo runs and then come into work
and go to work.
Stuff like that.
Nice.
I already got some plans like that dialed in.
Nice.
And we're gonna start making it
way
happen.
easier because you're right here.
Yeah, exactly.
Way easier.
Yeah, definitely. So all right. So anyway, Jack was saying that to me,
and
he was totally
Jack,
nude and
everything come out okay.
Yeah,
I think so.
Yeah, and then he was cold and naked, and
Yeah.
that's how that story, right, Jack?
That's right.
How it ended.
That's how it ended. That's right.
So yeah. So all right. So we are at the point in the show where John, you want to go, or are we gonna end?
All right.
We're good. All right.
You wanted him to end
so we got
the
the Mag Bay story is how we're going to close this out, right?
Okay.
So let me set you up here a little bit. So there was a day where a crew of a lot of people went out marlin fishing in Mag Bay, and it was a group of guys.
Yep.
By the way, great anglers, Greg Stokes.
Great, legends on the boat, for sure.
You had that was a world class deal.
I think you got to know what you're doing to catch that many fish in one day.
Yeah.
Everybody's got it's like so. Take us through the one thing that I always wanted to wrap my head around, or at least get some intel on, was what was the process of everyone? Like, you got people taking breaks, I'm sure, and maybe you guys have a couple drinks, and then you're on deck. Is it kind of like a dugout process, or what was it like?
There were no breaks.
No breaks.
No breaks. The breaks were between when you were running from fish to fish. So we had Captain Steve Lasley, legendary captain, Tommy Gifford Award recipient.
Right. And how many fish were caught in on this day? 300 something.
357 or something like that. I don't know. I don't have 360 or something. I don't know.
All blue marlin.
No, all striped marlin.
All striped marlin.
All striped marlin.
Okay.
So I'd never been to Mag Bay. This was November 2019, and got the invitation to go, which was incredible. Extremely grateful for that. And it was something like I've never seen before, right? Because it's all live bait, and you're fishing from this 92-foot boat, and you're not fishing from the front of the boat or from the back of the boat. You're fishing from the front. And there's a pulpit on this boat, right? So let me just put it in. So there's a mothership operation. So.
And this is Anthony.
Bad Company. Anthony Shea.
Yeah.
He's Team Bad Company. The head guy there. I mean,
right.
he's the boss, right? And so it's the 144. They have a boat, a 144, which is not a fishing boat, but they do fish off of it, which is just a giant, awesome palace, and just a floating mothership, right? And then they have this 92-foot boat, which is their fishing boat, and
skiff.
Yeah. Yeah. And so, anyways,
roof over your head, right?
Yeah. So we would, we get on the boat in the 92 in the morning, and you got Lasley, Anthony, a couple other guys up in the bridge with these gyro binoculars, right? And I've never really had much experience with them, but there's just these super incredible $1,000 binoculars. You probably know. I've never used them before.
But they're awesome.
They're nuts, and you can see. So anyways, these guys immediately start just terminology. I'm fishing. I'm not saying I'm an expert like these guys, but I've been around, so I know terminology. Just completely different terminology. It's all West Coast guys, all from California, and they're talking about there's feeders, there's tailors, there's swimmers or whatever, all these different types of fish. But anyways, it's just it's something out of National Geographic when you get up there in Mag Bay.
No floppers.
There's probably floppers. I don't know. There are all these different terminologies, right? They're saying all this different stuff. So you get out there and you find a pack of birds, right? There's just birds galore, right? Like something here that if you saw off the coast of Florida, you just my God, we're in it, but they're all over the place. Packs. So you locate a pack and you go to one, Lasley's running and gunning. You find a pack and they're all on these big bait pods, right? So we're loaded up with bait and they have a bait tank right at the bow of the boat. And there's this pulpit. So you pull up on the fish and you're like, all right, they're here. This is where we're going. Everyone get ready. So all these guys who are used to this, I had never done this shit in my life.
So let me interrupt you here real quick. Quick question. So this is a 1-day record they're shooting for.
Or a 24-hour record. It was a 1-day record, right? It was a 1 day.
I'm just trying to understand the parameters of what they're trying to fulfill.
Yeah, not 24 hours. Like you start fishing at 6 or 7
Right.
in the morning, and then whenever sun
Sun up to
it was
sundown.
one day, not like
Okay.
a 24-hour period.
Sun up
During
to
light
sundown.
time.
Yeah,
Okay.
it was just trying to look for one day, and we had a meeting on the 144 the night before the first day of fishing, and we went over stuff. I mean, everyone was like, and we had they didn't bring me along for this reason, but IGFA guy here, what do you, tell us what the legality is for what we can't do. I mean, you guys can't hand off rods, you can't do this stuff like that. So, there's some times and things like that happen, and the fish weren't counted.
And you guys had a crew there, or is it just you?
It was just me. It was just
you.
me. But I was just there because I had met Anthony several years ago when we were out in California for something, and just kept in touch with him, and gave me the invitation to come out there. So
No pistols to the head, no manila envelopes getting passed back and forth. All right.
No, and here's the thing though, IGFA doesn't keep records for this stuff, right? We don't keep records for most fish in a day.
So it's a street record.
No, it's just like we don't keep records for that. So
Gotcha.
we keep records for heaviest fish per line class or ticket
Okay.
class, whatever. So there was no release record.
So
that
he
the
just
IGFA
wanted you there
does.
just to be like, make sure this is legit, so nobody can say anything.
Maybe I don't know.
Okay,
I don't know what
gotcha.
the motivation for is
Beyond
for the
being
invite.
a master angler.
Well, beyond just having met the guy,
Right.
and trying to get him involved with the organization more over
Okay.
the years,
Yep.
And so, anyways, we were out there, and then we had the meeting, like whole crew meeting the night before. Like, this is what we're gonna do, and Lazzy was like, well, we're gonna fish this IGFA compliant and fish that are handed off or fish that someone screws up on. We're not, we're gonna be keeping a count up here. So every time someone sells release, I'll be able to see which one's legit. Whatever. So we go to this whole thing. I'm like, 300 fish. I'm like, I'm excited. I'm like, there's no way we're gonna catch 350 marlin
Yeah.
in a day. Like, are you kidding me? That's bullshit. Like, I mean, maybe sailfish somewhere. I just didn't. I was like, all right, well, maybe I don't know. But I tell you what, man, it was something like I had never seen before. So we get up there, and all these guys are used to this in California. I guess that it's a common practice where you go to the bow using conventional reels, like we had Talicas, stuff like that, and all these different things. And they probably have like 30 or 40 pound test, short leaders, maybe 10, 20 foot leaders, something like that. Nothing crazy, and it was just
There's a big difference between 10 and 20 feet.
yeah. But I mean, these are all. It's not up to 30, which you're allowed to have. They're fairly short leaders, right? Because they're casting, right? Because you get up to the fish, and the fish are there, and you see them. I mean, from here to your wall right there.
Yeah.
Fish are swimming around, as many, like tons of them. Cast out. So Anthony was always the first guy up there. Anthony hooks, and they have these probably like 20 or 30 rods right up there on the bow. 10 anglers probably at a time. So you go up, you're right on top of this bait ball. You make a cast, maybe 30 feet. Anthony comes off the pulpit, goes to the other side. Next person up, cast, off the other side. Next person, cast, other side. Next person, cast, other side. So it's like 10 people in a matter of a minute have baited and probably hooked
Oh my God.
a striped marlin.
Sounds
just
like
like
a catfish farm.
Yeah, right.
I didn't even participate in the first couple of I didn't know what was going on. I would hang out in the back of the boat when we'd go from one place to another, and we'd have squid teasers out, and the fish would come up on there, and I'd pitch it to that, and I'd hook it up. Because I don't know how to cast a conventional.
Right.
You're
right.
trying to cast a Talica
you're gonna
30, 40 yards,
test it out. Yeah.
Exactly. So I didn't want to be that kook out there. I'm the
Yeah,
only
yeah.
Florida guy. I don't want to be that guy. So I'm like, no, I'm going to hold off. I'm going to watch.
You better go kite fish and learn how to cast those goggle eyes out away from the boat.
So anyways, we did that, and honestly, it was just nonstop. You get on a pot of fish, and then you catch however many fish that were going to eat off that pod. And last year, we'd make the call. I'm like, all right, we're moving. So that was the first day. I didn't think we got it. Yeah, we did get it the first day. So like halfway through the day, I was just trying to go over there, and I was just making a fool out of myself, like casting this thing off. I could maybe caught a couple of them. But I was like, you know what? What I noticed, like this whole well-oiled machine, which wasn't there, no one was helping people like leader and kind of like pop off fish and break fish off or cut fish off,
Right.
So it was getting hung up. You had someone by the boat, or you had a fish by the boat, and the guy's like, oh, I can't get it off. So I was like, you know what? Screw this. I'm just going to go. I'm going to get some gloves. I'm just
Get 'em
going to be
off?
the leader guy. So I just ran around and started
That's
just
a
going
smart
and,
move.
and just going and helping,
move.
because then you had people.
That was
so-
probably big in actually getting that done
Well,
that day.
You're right, because that keeps your time
Yeah.
frame. That's like turning
Yeah.
a table in a restaurant.
So you go boom,
Nice.
fish
Turn it
off,
over.
release, Lasley marks it, take the rod back. You had a guy there that was kind of re-rigging, or two people there that was kind of re-rigging, putting a hook back on, whatever. And then you're back out there. And it was just continuous. And you'd probably
I'm sure
catch.
you got pretty good at releasing.
Well, it's not that hard,
No,
I mean,
I'm saying
these
you
fish
get a
aren't that big.
pretty good rhythm,
Yeah, but these fish aren't that big. They're maybe 100 pounds, 120
Yeah.
pounds max. Like you're pulling on big fish. But then it was just like you probably catch roughly 50 fish off each pod, right?
Wow.
So you hit a pod. All right, they're done. Next one. Go find it, get on it. You probably catch 2 or 3 on the way there that would come up. They actually didn't even like us pitching back there because they would kind of cut down their time to get to the next pod. But dude, it was just insane. It was like a whirlwind, and you know, like I said, it was an incredible opportunity, and something that was just like it was seeing these guys who have all kind of been together. You got like Stoatsberries, you got Jimmy Decker, you got Charlie Albright, Jock Albright, his dad, legends out there in Southern California,
sure.
and these guys know what they're doing. So I was the learner. I was the apprentice. I sat there. I was like, whoa, I don't know how this thing works. And it was just an incredible synergy between the whole crew and everything like that. And I just kind of found my niche.
Yeah.
But I say I found my niche being the leader guy, but I probably caught a dozen fish on the trip. We were there for, I think, 3 days. Ended up with 900 fish total. I think 3 or 4 days. And it was nuts, man. Mag Bay is an incredible place. And it's a very incredible operation that they have there. And
what a great trip.
Trip of a lifetime, man.
Trip of a lifetime, exactly.
It really was.
For sure.
And you get to stay on this 144-foot floating palace, dude. I mean, it was awesome. It was crazy.
With like hostesses and service and
you get on the boat and it's like, oh, what kind of cocktail would you like?
Yeah.
Here's an egg roll or something. Some kind of crazy cuisine. That, I was like,
full kitchen, full chef, full.
I was
full,
like, awesome. Like your bed's made. Whoa.
You didn't make your own bunk?
I did. I just pulled myself up. I felt bad. It wasn't a bunk, man. It was. I wish it wasn't a bunk. It was a bed. But it was an incredible experience and learned a lot.
Yeah.
And great to meet those guys. I mean, those guys out in California. I know we say here is like the Mecca, but Southern California's got.
No, that's true.
They've got a lot of passionate.
You don't want to dismiss those guys at all.
Very, very passionate. Very a lot of history.
Catalina Island with the Bluefins and stuff. I mean, that's Charles Holder. He was one of the early guys. And they conversed back to the East Coast to guys that were fishing off of New Jersey and catching bluefin tunas. Captain Tom Jones, one of the first guys, and who's one of our legendary captain crew. He was the first guy to repeatedly catch bluefin tunas on the East Coast. And he had contact and Zane Gray writing letter. How are you catching these fish? And that's Zane Gray met Captain Mitchell up in Nova Scotia, and Mitchell became his guy that traveled with him all over the world on the Fisherman 1 and the Fisherman 2. Built him 2 skiffs in Nova Scotia that they put on the ship to go around and fish, and then they built skiffs in New Zealand on the second round. And but it's the captain that each of these guys met. Anthony Shea has Steve Lastly. Doesn't get any better. Right. So there's that connection always with the guy who's making it happen.
Yeah, we should do a tournament circuit like California comes to Florida and then Florida goes to California and see how everyone does.
Yeah, that'd
be kind of cool.
Yeah, it was impressive. And the cool thing is about the Anthony and Steve relationship is that Steve is the only captain that's ever run Anthony's boats before. Up until I don't know how many years ago it was, Anthony ran his own boats and like fish, doing the biz, fishing down in Cabo and that whole area down there, and then I think he hired Steve to come on board like 20 years ago or something. I'm saying 20, could be something else. I don't know. But hired him to come along, and since then it's been only Steve that's run his boats for him, which is kind of cool. Kind of a cool story. But they've done some cool stuff, and it was an awesome trip, man. It was nuts, absolutely nuts.
I got to tell you, man, John, what do you think? I mean, we took a month off from the podcast because of the move and everything like that and everything, but I cannot think of a better way to kick it back off.
Oh, that was a banger.
You guys are awesome. I mean,
Thanks
cool.
for having us.
I could sit here all day.
Damn right.
Thanks for having us. Well, we know you could sit here all day. Give him another rum. You'll talk for a week.
Where's the Bible? We'll start reading you some verses.
Noah's Ark. We already heard the story of Noah's Ark. So
there we go.
That's
right.
So you guys, listen. I would love to have you guys on the show again. I mean, please.
Sure,
I mean, and we're
Pleasure
right around the
here,
corner.
man.
So,
Pleasure being
Karl,
here.
I hope we continue this. What started off as a great friendship here today. So
no question about it.
So thank you for coming in today, guys. This has been an outstanding podcast, and I thoroughly enjoyed this. And you guys also settled a lot of nerves for me from setting up in the new place And I'm pretty sure you settled a lot of nerves for John, too, because he's actually really the one that puts all this together. I just sit here and talk.
Either us or the Papas did that nerve settling.
Yeah.
Right?
It helps. It helps a little bit. It helps a little bit. So, all right, cool. So listen, IGFA tournament.
Yep.
February 6th is the
9th to the 11th.
9th to the 11th. I got that wrong.
Yep, that's all right. 9th to the 11th. Sign up today.
Yep, 9th to the 11th. Sign up today.
Where can they go to sign up now? Pre-register.
IGFA.org.
Okay.
And we have some prominent tournament signage on the homepage there, so you should be able to find it pretty easily. If you just Google IGFA Light Tackle Open, it'll take you right to the page too.
Yep. And you'll get a custom designed Connected by Water
right.
Dennis Friel designed performance shirt too.
Best of luck with the new place, man.
Thank you very much.
Really wish you the best of luck. I know it's going to be a good success.
I'm a little nervous because we haven't opened our doors to the public yet. We still got paper on the windows here, so but I'm a little nervous, but I guess that's people have been telling me that's a good thing. That
it'll come.
Yeah.
So we'll be all right. I think hopefully, but we're home. That's it. We've come back.
Yeah.
Prodigal son here.
You're in the right spot.
Yeah.
It's great
and
place to be.
become a member of the IGFA.
Yeah.
Right.
Absolutely.
Join IGFA.
Join IGFA.
Follow Join IGFA on Insta.
At Join IGFA on Instagram.
$20 a year is you can get in for a digital membership, and you'll get all sorts of great information, all sorts of great content, stuff like that Adrian produces and gets out. So and you'll be supporting the future of fishing. So we do a lot of good work. Not only just records. I know we talked about that today, but we do a lot of good work.
You do. I mean,
teaching kids to fish and protecting our fisheries and advocating on behalf of anglers and advocating on behalf of fish. So we've been around for 81 years, and I don't think we're going anywhere. So
basically the moral of the story is if you don't know about the IGFA by now, then you know what rock you've been living under. So all right, cool.
Get involved.
Right. That's it. So your ego is not your amigo, right? Always do your best, and then just let God do the rest. If you're in the market for a truck or a Jeep or another vehicle, you head over to our boys at Joey Accardi, Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, Ram. They will hook you up. Ask for Dean. He's my buddy. And if he hears that you came from me, then he might be inclined to give you a better deal than most people would get. So talk to Dean. And also, if you're thirsty, and I know you are, right? Settle up with some Papa's Pilar rum, right? We might have a couple more here after the show, it sounds like. We got a lot more to talk about. And also, if you're hungry, head over to the other Papa's Raw Bar. Our good buddies over there, Troy Ganter and Cassie Ganter, got that operation dialed in.
Spot.
The place is awesome.
Yep, they weathered the COVID storm like champs, and then now they're up and running and thriving. And they got the new barrel room over there.
I am so bummed, man. I finally settled in with that spot. I was over here, and then I moved. I was living right behind them.
Oh, really?
Right behind
in the LHP there?
Yeah, right over there. I was living right off of 49th.
Yeah.
Back over there, and then and we just moved. So I'm jonesing Papa's Raw Bar, man. I haven't had it.
Well, next time you come in, I'll make sure that we're catered.
Ah,
right.
Now we're talking.
Yeah, so we'll do this again.
Won't leave. It'll be like a 6-hour podcast.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, so no matter where we are, no matter what we're doing, do not ever forget that we are always connected by water.
Connected by water.
Thank you guys very much.
Thank you, man.
Appreciate it.
Yep.